Dumeki Jun, a 28-year-old rank C adventurer, is a skilled swordsman who carries a rare magical sword. After being betrayed in the past, he operates alone, although an opportunity arises to form a group, making him question his decision to remain isolated. Dumeki continues, reflecting on the life of an adventurer, recognizing that forming a group brings advantages such as sharing tasks and earning greater rewards. While maintaining his sword, he observes other stronger adventurers, already classified in higher ranks. Even so, he decides not to be shaken by the difference in level. Determined to evolve, he sets a personal goal to reach higher ranks, holding on to the conviction that he will not lose, regardless of the obstacles. Dumeki is approached by a rank A adventurer, the leader of a famous group, who asks for his help. Surprised, he agrees to listen, without knowing the reason for the interest. Dumeki accepts helping a rank A group defeat a rare unicorn, attracted by the reward. Even reluctant to work in a team, he agrees after learning they need a reliable attacker. Dumeki joins the group and sets out on the mission, while the team organizes and defines roles. Even cautious, he follows along, focused on completing the objective and securing the reward. During the mission, Dumeki finds the target and alerts the group, initiating the battle. Without hesitation, he moves to attack, showing his readiness in combat. During the attack, something unexpected happens and Dumeki is struck, being interrupted mid-action. Meanwhile, the group watches from a distance, indicating that the situation did not unfold as he expected. Dumeki realizes too late that he has fallen into a trap and is wounded during the attack. The group leader reveals that everything was planned and provokes him, while the others watch without interfering. On the ground, he understands that he has been deceived from the beginning, possibly after they discovered information about him being treated as nothing more than disposable. Lying on the ground, Dumeki understands the entire situation. He was lured into the mission only to be forced to use his magical sword. The group orchestrated everything to isolate him in the forest and create an opportunity to take the weapon. As he realizes he has been completely deceived, the leader approaches and makes it clear he will take the sword, revealing that this was always the true objective. Even injured, Dumeki stands up and faces the group, refusing to surrender. The leader decides to finish it and moves to attack him, treating him as insignificant. Even so, Dumeki reacts and prepares to fight until the end. The leader advances without hesitation and lands a direct blow on Dumeki, breaking through his defense and causing a severe wound. The attack brings him down, making the gap in strength between them clear. As he falls, the group watches with contempt, treating the fight as already decided. Defeated, Dumeki collapses to the ground as the leader steps on him and declares his end. Gravely injured and bleeding, his condition reaches its limit, leaving him without strength to react. Abandoned by the group, he remains lying there, realizing once again that he has been deceived and left on the brink of death. On the verge of death, Dumeki loses his last strength as his life slowly fades away. Lying in the forest, he reflects on a past marked by failures, betrayals, and continuous suffering. As his consciousness fades, a final thought emerges. If he had another chance, he would no longer accept living the same way, determined to become stronger and live on his own terms. Even with his life reaching zero, Dumeki maintains consciousness and finds it strange that he can still perceive everything around him. Upon checking his condition, he confirms that he is dead, with all his stats completely reduced to zero, yet still conscious, indicating that something abnormal is happening. Even dead, Dumeki remains conscious but unable to move his body or speak. Trapped on the ground, he realizes he can only see, without feeling or acting, concluding that he is in a strange state, as if caught between life and death. As time passes, Dumeki remains in the same state, still conscious but trapped within his own body. Gradually, he begins to notice small sensations returning, such as touch, indicating a slight change. Even confused, he tries to check his condition, slowly regaining control. Upon recovering part of his senses, Dumeki accesses his status and discovers an absurd change. He is now classified as an undead. His body is decomposing, with constant hunger and reduced attributes, indicating an unstable condition. Confused, he tries to understand this new reality, analyzing his abilities and realizing that despite his degraded state, he still retains some capacity to act. Dumeki realizes that the environment remains the same, confirming that nothing in the world around him has changed, only himself. Upon understanding that he is now a monster, he concludes that he will be hunted by adventurers. Given this, he decides he needs to evolve quickly before encountering humans, seeking enough strength to survive in this new condition. Dumeki uses his knowledge from when he was an adventurer to begin evolving as a monster, making use of the environment and available resources. Determined to survive, he starts intense training, focused on leveling up as quickly as possible. During training, Dumeki begins hunting weak monsters in the forest, defeating them one by one. After eliminating a skeleton, he confirms that he is gaining experience and leveling up. His status gradually improves, with increases in attributes, showing that even as an undead, he can evolve and grow stronger. Dumeki realizes his attributes have increased and discovers that he can freely distribute points. Upon analyzing the system, he understands that as a monster, his capabilities depend directly on these stats, and that his body responds to the choices made. With that, he decides to prioritize agility and dexterity to improve his survival, since he cannot use magic in his current condition. After distributing the points, Dumeki feels his body become lighter and faster, confirming that increased agility has improved his performance. He tests this in combat against monsters, realizing he can defeat them with ease. Even so, he remains cautious upon noticing that enemies like ghouls possess high attack power, capable of being fatal with a single blow. While exploring the forest, Dumeki observes another zombie acting on instinct, trying to feed on anything. Comparing it to his own consciousness, he realizes he is different from the others, maintaining reasoning even as an undead. Understanding this as an advantage, he concludes he can learn from monster behavior without losing his ability to think, which may help him evolve further. During testing, Dumeki attacks a tree and ends up biting the trunk, experiencing his undead instincts in practice. Although it has no immediate effect on the target, the action triggers a change. He levels up and acquires a new ability linked to predation, which allows him to recover a small amount of life by consuming prey. Dumeki returns to training and eliminates another zombie, treating it as another step toward evolution. With increased agility, he begins locating enemies more easily and continues hunting in the forest, focused on leveling up quickly. Upon encountering a ghoul advancing toward him, Dumeki evaluates the situation and realizes he could flee with his current speed. Even so, he decides to stay and face the enemy, remembering the moment of his death and determined not to repeat the same fate. Determined to change his destiny, Dumeki faces the ghoul head-on, declaring that he will become stronger. He strikes first and begins combat with quick attacks, using agility to pressure the enemy. During the fight, he manages to hit the ghoul and realizes he is facing a stronger opponent than before, but continues fighting, determined to win and prove his growth. During the battle, an evolution option appears for Dumeki, revealing the possibility of transforming into a more advanced type of undead. Realizing that this choice could drastically change his abilities, he understands he can shape his own growth. Without hesitation, he chooses the path of a devouring ghoul, accepting evolution as a way to gain power and continue surviving. Dumeki evolves into a devouring ghoul, his body transforms, and he regains speech, gaining new capabilities. After evolving, Dumeki loses the state of decomposition, has his attributes increased, and regains functions such as speech and body control, allowing him to act with more freedom and enthusiasm. Dumeki continues through the forest, determined to keep evolving, focused on leveling up even further and becoming increasingly stronger. With extreme hunger, Dumeki realizes he can no longer survive only on what he had been consuming. Even still suffering negative effects, he decides to stop hesitating and seek a better way to feed in order to continue evolving. Driven by hunger and determination, Dumeki reaffirms his goal to surpass everyone and become stronger at any cost. Amid frustration, he decides to search for a new food source, trying to survive while continuing his evolution. Dumeki attempts to fish for food, but upon entering the river realizes the current is much stronger than expected. Dragged by the water, he understands the situation is out of control and dangerous. After being swept away and nearly dying, Dumeki barely manages to survive. Exhausted, he recognizes the danger and decides to act more cautiously, choosing to head toward a cave in search of shelter and safety. Inside the cave, Dumeki finds a glowing magic circle and realizes it is the entrance to a dungeon. With nowhere else to go, and seeing it as a chance to find enemies to feed on and evolve, he decides to enter. Upon entering the dungeon, Dumeki finds an enclosed environment covered with vegetation, different from the outside. As he observes the area, he senses a strange presence approaching, realizing he is not alone. Inside the dungeon, Dumeki encounters an E-rank orc. Recognizing the enemy's level, he understands he is in a more dangerous environment, but also one full of opportunities to evolve. Facing the orc, Dumeki is driven by hunger and attacks without hesitation. Recognizing they are of the same rank, after defeating the first orc with ease, Dumeki provokes the next enemy, showing confidence and making it clear he is dominating combat within the dungeon. In the next encounter, the orc retaliates and strikes Dumeki, dealing damage and showing the fight is not so simple. Even hit, he continues fighting, enduring, and staying focused on victory. After defeating the orc, Dumeki devours it to recover energy, treating the enemy as food. Even so, he notices his hunger persists, indicating he still needs to consume more to be fully satisfied. Still hungry, Dumeki continues feeding while exploring the dungeon and finds a staircase. Realizing it leads to higher levels, he decides to proceed, understanding he may find better prey and continue evolving. Upon ascending, Dumeki encounters several orcs gathered and blocking the path. Instead of retreating, he faces the group with interest, seeing them as a large amount of food to continue evolving. Faced with multiple orcs, Dumeki remains calm and provokes the group. As they advance in a line along the staircase, he recognizes the advantage and begins facing them one by one, treating the situation as an ideal opportunity to fight and feed. Taking advantage of the narrow staircase, Dumeki continues advancing while defeating the orcs one by one. Moving with speed and aggression, he dominates the battle and turns the fight into a continuous sequence of kills. After defeating them all, Dumeki observes the number of orcs he has slain and understands the danger of facing groups like that. Even so, he takes advantage of the bodies to feed and gain experience, realizing that the place functions as a continuous spawn point for enemies. After the battle, Dumeki feeds and reflects on his evolution, realizing that he needs to increase strength and agility to handle groups. As he notices his mind becoming more instinctive, he accepts this change, concluding that his new condition is not something bad. Even after feeding, the hunger remains, and Dumeki realizes his body still demands more. Upon checking his status, he notices that his predation skill has evolved, increasing his recovery. Finding no more enemies on that floor, he decides to move on to the upper levels of the dungeon in search of more monsters and food. As he advances to the next floor, Dumeki walks through corridors similar to the previous ones. Suddenly, he notices something appearing ahead, indicating the presence of a new enemy or danger approaching. On the new floor, Dumeki encounters a more dangerous group, E+ rank orcs with different roles, including an archer who attacks from a distance while the fighters advance. Realizing that the arrows do not run out, he understands that the fight will be more difficult and will require more strategy. Facing the new group, Dumeki analyzes the situation and defines a strategy. Eliminate the archer first. Taking advantage of his speed, he quickly advances across the battlefield, dodging attacks and closing the distance to neutralize the ranged threat before dealing with the others. Dumeki reaches the archer and eliminates him with a direct strike, neutralizing the greatest threat of the group. Realizing he can take down enemies quickly, he gains confidence and concludes he can handle the rest with ease. After clearing the floor, Dumeki understands the dungeon's structure. The boss is located at the deepest point, and upon defeating it, an exit portal appears. Even so, he decides not to advance directly, preferring to continue evolving before facing the boss. After evolving again, Dumeki receives new evolution options, such as a giant ogre and a cursed mummy. Analyzing their characteristics, he understands he needs to follow a path consistent with his build, prioritizing attributes that favor his agility and combat style before choosing the next form. While considering evolution, Dumeki remembers an unusual option, but before deciding, a transformation begins by force. Even without choosing, his body reacts, and the change starts automatically, surprising him as he feels the pain of evolution taking over. After the forced evolution, Dumeki undergoes a more drastic transformation, gaining demonic traits such as horns and a significant increase in attributes. Upon checking his status, he realizes that his abilities and capabilities have been amplified, marking a new stage in his growth. As he advances, Dumeki encounters a stronger group led by a rank D orc general, accompanied by a swordsman, a mage, and a guard of the same level. Recognizing the danger, he evaluates the group as a much more serious challenge before deciding how to act. Facing the elite group, Dumeki activates a skill to increase his power and moves into battle. Analyzing the enemies, He identifies the orc general as the greatest threat and decides to focus on him first. Dumeki charges toward the group but is intercepted by subordinates, who attack together to protect him. Even under pressure from multiple enemies, he continues pushing forward, facing the defensive line while trying to break through to the general. During the confrontation, Dumeki realizes how much his strength has increased after evolving, easily overcoming enemies that would have been difficult before. Even alone, he is able to face rank D monsters, something that would previously require an entire group. Combining his new strength with the experience from when he was human, Dumeki begins to fight with greater efficiency and technique. As he dominates the battle, he realizes he has already reached a level close to that of a rank A adventurer. After taking control of the fight, Dumeki loses interest in the battle and begins to treat the enemies with contempt. With full confidence, he sees them as inferior, making it clear they no longer pose a threat to him. Before the final door, Dumeki concludes that the dungeon boss is behind it, possibly an orc king. Prepared for the worst-case scenario, he decides to move forward, focused on facing the boss. Dumeki opens the door and enters the boss room, finding a wide and empty space. As he advances cautiously, he realizes that the real challenge is about to begin. Inside the room, Dumeki encounters the true challenge. Several rank C berserker orcs waiting, with a larger figure in the background indicating the leader. Realizing the level of the enemies, he understands he has entered a much more dangerous battle. The true boss reveals itself. A rank B plus red ogre, far above the previous enemies, surrounded by berserkers. Dumeki realizes that, even stronger, he cannot face them all head-on and must act strategically to survive. Facing a numerical disadvantage, Dumeki quickly devises a plan. Eliminate the berserkers first to reduce pressure. Using his speed, he advances and attacks one of them by surprise, initiating his strategy of splitting the fight into individual confrontations. Dumeki eliminates one of the berserkers, but the ogre notices his strategy and reacts, coordinating attacks with the others to prevent him from isolating the fight. Surrounded once again, he understands that the confrontation will be more difficult than planned. The ogre joins the fight and launches a direct attack, pressuring Dumeki with superior strength and reach. Facing the unexpected assault, he is caught off guard and must react quickly to avoid being hit. Facing the ogre's attack, Dumeki realizes he cannot take the blow directly. Staying calm, he composes himself and prepares to react cautiously, remembering that he must act strategically to survive. Regaining focus, Dumeki reminds himself that he cannot falter against a stronger enemy. Determined, he moves again, adjusting his stance and launching a full counterattack. Dumeki narrowly dodges the ogre's attacks and takes advantage of the opening to strike back. Using speed and precision, he delivers repeated blows, injuring the enemy and beginning to balance the fight even against a stronger opponent. Maintaining pressure, Dumeki continues his assault without giving space for reaction. He chains fast and precise strikes, hitting vital points of the ogre and intensifying the damage. Even with the enemy's resistance, he persists, determined to end the fight there. The ogre responds with fury and counterattacks with brutal force, trying to crush Dumeki in one blow. Even under pressure, he withstands the impact and responds aggressively, keeping the battle balanced in a direct clash between speed and power. Taking advantage of an opening, Dumeki lands a decisive strike and brings down the ogre, ending the battle. After the victory, he calms himself and realizes he lost control during the fight, acknowledging that he needs to better control his instincts from now on. After the victory, Dumeki recognizes that facing an enemy above his level without a weapon was risky. Upon checking his status, he discovers he gained a new skill that allows him to analyze weapons and equipment, expanding his options for future battles. After defeating the boss, the body disappears and a reward chest appears. Curious, Dumeki decides to open it, seeing it as a new opportunity to obtain something useful for his evolution. Upon opening the chest, Dumeki finds a massive iron club from the red ogre. Using his skill, he identifies the item and discovers that it has high attack power and destructive effects, realizing that he has finally obtained a powerful weapon. With the new weapon in hand, Dumeki analyzes its effects and understands that the club has great destructive power, capable of damaging weapons and armor. Upon understanding the rarity system, he realizes he is using a valuable item and decides to take advantage of it to strengthen himself even further in future battles. Dumeki finds a rare magical bag that allows him to store items with great capacity. After analyzing the item, he decides to keep it instead of selling it. Then, he gathers the remains of the enemies and prepares to leave the dungeon, heading toward the exit circle. Before leaving, Dumeki finds a strange device on the wall that looks like a button. Suspicious of a possible trap, he analyzes the situation, but ultimately decides to press it to see what happens. After pressing the button, a secret passage opens, revealing a new path within the dungeon. Realizing there may be something beyond the normal route, Dumeki decides to follow this unexpected path. Following the secret passage, Dumeki arrives at a place completely different from the dungeon, a calm area with water and vegetation around. Surprised by the change, he realizes he has entered an unusual place, possibly special or hidden. In the hidden area, Dumeki finds an altar in the center of a lake, with a glowing sphere floating above it. Intrigued, he approaches, realizing that the object has an unusual energy and maybe something special. Upon picking up the sphere, Dumeki feels a strange attraction and begins to see it as something consumable, even suspicious. His instinct speaks louder and he decides to eat it, driven by constant hunger. Before consuming the sphere, Dumeki hesitates as he remembers the lessons of his former master, who taught him not to act purely on impulse. This moment of reflection makes him question his decision, bringing back part of his human consciousness. After absorbing the sphere, Dumeki undergoes an unexpected transformation. His body reacts to the energy, and he receives a system message. He becomes the dungeon master. Surprised, he realizes he has gained control over that place, elevating his situation far beyond mere survival. After the absorption, an unexpected creature appears, a talking piglet inside a box. It complains about almost being devoured, while Dumeki, surprised, realizes that it is not a common monster, but something linked to the dungeon core. The pig introduces itself as Ars and reveals that it is the dungeon core. Dumeki understands that by absorbing it, he awakened its consciousness, and now the two are connected, making the situation even more unusual. Ars explains that a dungeon core controls everything even without a master, but now Dumeki has taken that role. As the master, he becomes the administrator of the labyrinth and discovers that the place is called the Foreignoir Labyrinth. Ars explains that, as the dungeon master, Dumeki can use dungeon points to control everything, create floors and rooms, generate chests, and summon monsters. These points increase as creatures act or die within the territory, functioning as the labyrinth's energy source. Dumeki tests his powers and better understands the system. He can generate things with limited points and even recreate defeated monsters. Ars explains that enemy energy is absorbed and converted into these points, consolidating control of the labyrinth in his hands. Overwhelmed by the information, Dumeki decides to use the remaining points to create a safe base. He makes a bed, organizes the basics, and for the first time in days, finally rests inside the dungeon under his own control. Upon waking up, Dumeki realizes that everything was real. He truly absorbed the dungeon core. Now aware of the new reality, he understands that his life has completely changed, and that he is in control of that place. Dumeki discovers that he slept for 3 days, and that Ars created a room next to the core for him to rest. Ars explains that even without a master, the core can keep the dungeon functioning, but now Dumeki is officially the one in control. With everything organized, Dumeki decides to leave the dungeon to explore the outside world. He agrees with Ars to stay in contact and promises to return later, leaving the core to manage the labyrinth while he moves on to his next stage. Outside, Dumeki disguises himself with a hood and returns to where everything began. Recognizing the environment, he sets his next destination and heads decisively toward the plains, ready to continue growing stronger outside the dungeon. Already on the plains, Dumeki keeps moving forward while hunting monsters along the way. Adapted to his new life, he continues evolving in motion, turning every encounter into an opportunity to grow stronger. Dumeki easily eliminates rank D monsters along the path, already dealing with them without difficulty. During the hunt, he senses something different ahead, indicating a new and unusual encounter. Dumeki encounters a pack of rank C wolves and notices that, besides them, there is a different creature leading the group. Even at a numerical disadvantage, he observes the situation, recognizing that the fight will be more dangerous than the previous ones. Watching the scene, Dumeki is impressed by the determination of the creature that is facing several enemies at once without retreating. Interested, he decides to act, increasing his agility and preparing to enter the fight. Dumeki enters the fight by surprise, pushing the wolves away and offering help. The creature realizes he is not an enemy and reacts cautiously, showing a certain level of intelligence by recognizing the situation. Dumeki positions himself between the creature and the wolves, speaking calmly and making it clear that he is not hostile. Even so, the pack reacts aggressively and launches an attack, turning the situation into an inevitable confrontation. Dumeki reacts even before the attacks reach him, using his speed to dodge and counterattack instantly. He cuts through the pack with fast and precise strikes, dominating the pace of the battle and showing total superiority. After easily defeating the wolves, Dumeki realizes his power is above what he expected, even without using all his abilities. Then, he finds a recovery potion and notices something unusual about the creature he helped. It has 2 tails, indicating that it is not an ordinary being. Realizing the creature is alone and not a threat, Dumeki approaches in a friendly manner. Interested in her, he invites her to accompany him, proposing that they travel together from then on. The creature accepts the proposal, and a bond is formed between them. Dumeki realizes he has created a kind of subordination contract, establishing a direct connection with her. Even without fully understanding how it works, he recognizes that he is no longer alone. Dumeki discovers that the creature is named Kinu and talks to her casually. Quickly forming a bond, he decides to help her become stronger, beginning their journey together. Dumeki and Kinu set out together and begin fighting side by side. He recognizes her strength and realizes that, with training, she could face even stronger enemies, strengthening their partnership. After the fight, Dumeki asks Kinu to rest while he keeps watch. During the break, she begins to evolve, indicating that she can also grow stronger alongside him. Kinu successfully completes her evolution and returns even stronger. Satisfied, Dumeki decides to continue traveling with her, continuing their journey while both evolve together toward their next destination. Kinu demonstrates her new ability by using magic, surprising Dumeki. He realizes that, in addition to being stronger, she now has special capabilities, making the duo even more powerful for the challenges ahead. During their journey, Dumeki encounters a small humanoid creature who introduces himself as Balbal, a traveling merchant. Surprised, he realizes that there are other intelligent races and begins interacting, opening the door to new opportunities outside the dungeon. Dumeki tries to buy meat, but the merchant understands his situation and reveals a bigger problem. The nearby village is suffering from a lack of food due to the increase in monsters. Upon understanding this, Dumeki is given the meat for free, being introduced to a new conflict outside the dungeon. In return for the help, Dumeki offers to assist the merchant if needed in the future. He introduces himself as An, while Kinu reacts to the name, creating a light moment that reinforces the beginning of this new bond and journey outside the dungeon. Dumeki reveals the large amount of meat he has collected, impressing the merchant with his capability. Keeping his abilities a secret, he says goodbye after helping, leaving a good impression and continuing his journey with Kinu. Continuing their journey, Dumeki and Kinu travel together across the plains. Maintaining their pace, he leads the way until they approach their next destination, staying alert to the surroundings as they move side by side. Dumeki finds a hidden magic circle and realizes he has been there before, even though he does not clearly remember it. The moment he observes the place, a voice appears directly in his mind, initiating telepathic communication and indicating that something greater is about to happen. The voice reveals that Dumeki formed a subordination contract with Kinu and explains how to check her status through direct contact. Curious, he tests it immediately, touching her to confirm the information and better understand this new ability. Upon checking Kinu's status, Dumeki is surprised by her level and abilities. He realizes that, although she does not have much physical strength, her intelligence and magical capability are extremely high, explaining how she managed to survive while surrounded by wolves. After analyzing Kinu's attributes, Dumeki better understands her style and begins to guide her. He suggests that she focus on intelligence to further evolve her magical abilities and asks her to test her healing, starting to act as someone who is truly guiding his partner's growth. While testing Kinu's healing, Dumeki realizes that the ability scales with intelligence, confirming her potential as a magic user. Impressed, he begins to envision an even greater future for her, believing she could become a legendary-level creature. Motivated, he defines this as a shared goal between them, further strengthening their partnership. Dumeki reinforces their goal, aiming to reach a legendary level together. Kinu responds enthusiastically, accepting the objective, and thus their partnership is solidified with a clear purpose of continuous growth. With the goal set, Dumeki decides to return to the dungeon with Kinu. He outlines a simple plan: defeat every monster they encounter and consume those they can, using the place as an ideal point to evolve quickly and grow stronger together. Back in the dungeon, Dumeki follows the plan and immediately begins fighting new monsters. While battling, he also tests Kinu, asking if she can consume monster meat, further integrating her into their evolution strategy. During the fight, Kinu uses her abilities and recovers quickly, showing that she can sustain herself well in combat. Meanwhile, Dumeki recalls the past and realizes how much he has evolved since he was still human, acknowledging his own change compared to that time. Upon reaching level 29, Dumeki realizes he is close to a new evolution, remembering that at level 10, he had already transformed into a ghoul. Now he understands that another change is coming when he reaches level 30. Anticipating this, he warns Kinu that he will be vulnerable for a few minutes during the evolution and asks her to protect him. Trusting her, he prepares to take another step in his transformation. Kinu responds enthusiastically, reinforcing the trust between them. Dumeki continues advancing through the dungeon, now even more determined, eliminating goblins along the way without difficulty, maintaining the pace until reaching the moment of his next evolution. During combat against new enemies, Dumeki feels that the moment has arrived. He tells Kinu that his evolution is about to begin and entrusts her with the rest of the fight, making it clear that he will depend on her to protect him while he is vulnerable. While Kinu takes over the battle, Dumeki enters the evolution process. A new interface appears. He can choose attributes and even define his next evolutionary path. With little time to think, he trusts his instincts and quickly selects his options, initiating a transformation even more significant than before. Faced with the evolution options, Dumeki hesitates for a moment, realizing the weight of the choice. Among powerful paths like Doppelganger and Thunder Ogre, he remembers the promise he made to Kinu. Trusting that bond, he decides with conviction, rejecting indecision, and choosing to follow the path that best aligns with his goals moving forward. While Dumeki undergoes evolution, Kinu fully takes control of the situation. Alone, she fights the enemies with ferocity, protecting him while he remains vulnerable, showing that she can hold the front line even without help. Dumeki completes the evolution and immediately feels the change, sensing his body lighter and more controlled, with less pain than expected. Without wasting time, he asks Kinu to keep watch while he checks his new status, already focused on understanding how much stronger he has become after the transformation. Upon reviewing his new status, Dumeki realizes the massive leap in power after the evolution. Now, with an electrical attribute, he unlocks magic and new abilities that drastically amplify his strength and agility. He quickly analyzes the synergies. By activating his techniques, he can multiply his attributes several times, in addition to gaining aerial mobility with special steps. With that, he understands that his combat style has completely changed, becoming much faster, more explosive, and more versatile than before. Even after evolving, Dumeki realizes he has not yet reached the level he desires. Thanking Kinu for her support, he decides to continue advancing through the dungeon, focused on better testing his new abilities. With that, the two move on to the next floor, maintaining the goal of evolving even further and exploring all the newly acquired potential. After hours of continuous combat, Dumeki clears the path by defeating all the enemies on the floor. Exhausted but satisfied with the progress, he finally decides to advance to the second floor of the dungeon, ready to face even greater challenges alongside Kinu. Upon arriving at the second floor, Dumeki finds a spawn room filled with enemies appearing at the same time. Unintimidated, he faces the situation with confidence, stating that now it is easy for him. Kinu offers to help if the situation becomes dangerous, and together they prepare to face the new wave of monsters, showing how much they have evolved since the beginning. Dumeki lets Kinu fight, trusting her against the enemies on the second floor. Kinu attracts the enemies and uses area magic to eliminate them all at once, while Dumeki approves of the strategy. Kinu defeats several enemies with strategy, and without getting hurt, showing growth in combat. Dumeki watches impressed and praises her, realizing that she already fights in a smarter and more efficient way. Dumeki checks Kinu's status and sees that she has evolved into a sky fox, with a great increase in intelligence, dexterity, and endurance. She also gains the ability Clarity, which further increases intelligence. Realizing this, he adjusts the strategy and instructs Kinu to use magic with this new advantage. After analyzing Kinu's evolution, Dumeki decides to test his new abilities. He calls Kinu, prepares himself, and leaves the dungeon, heading to an open area where he can use his powers more freely. Outside, Dumeki realizes that despite the appearance of an open field, he is still inside the dungeon. Even so, he decides to take advantage of the space to test his abilities, while Kinu comments on the difficulty of exploring. Soon, he encounters new enemies, rank D black wolves, and prepares to face them. Dumeki tests his new magic, Light Orb, launching several ranged attacks against the wolves. The strikes hit, but are not enough to defeat them, showing that he still needs to better combine his abilities to deal decisive damage. Dumeki realizes that the magic alters the enemy's movement and sees an advantage in it. Excited, he decides to use this effect to make the fight easier and moves in to finish the wolves in direct combat. Dumeki activates Thunder Flash, increasing strength and agility, and quickly defeats the wolves. Satisfied, he decides to save the full combo for the boss. While Kinu acknowledges his power, Dumeki finds the boss tower and identifies the entrance to the boss room. At the entrance, he sees the guardians, a troll and a superior wolf, both rank C. He recognizes the challenge and prepares for the confrontation. Dumeki quickly analyzes. Trolls regenerate, so prolonged combat is bad. He splits the fight, orders Kinu to hold off the larger wolf, and charges at the trolls, provoking them to draw attention and control the battlefield. Dumeki activates Charge Souden, electrifying his weapon and increasing strength and agility. With the boost, he launches faster and heavier attacks against the trolls. With the electric power active, Dumeki realizes that the troll's regeneration cannot keep up with the damage. Taking advantage of this, he intensifies his attacks and keeps constant pressure, shortening the fight. Dumeki eliminates one of the trolls with fast and heavy strikes, reducing the fight to just one remaining enemy. Dumeki finishes the last troll in seconds, showing complete dominance in combat. At the same time, he notices Kinu in danger and immediately reacts to help her. Dumeki sees that Kinu is being pressured and considers intervening, but before that, she reacts on her own, using magic to counterattack and push the enemy back. Kinu notices an attack coming from behind and reacts quickly, using her magic to counterattack at a distance and prevent the ambush, maintaining control of the fight. After the battle, Dumeki praises Kinu and decides to take a break before the boss. Then he opens a chest and finds a rare item, earrings that conceal his status, although they do not work against high-level appraisal. With Kinu recovered, Dumeki prepares himself and decides to use the new item before proceeding. Confident, he opens the boss room door and advances toward the final confrontation. Inside the boss room, Dumeki encounters two B+ ogres, one with a horse head and the other with a bull head. He divides the strategy, focus on the horse first, while Kinu provides support and holds the other with magic. Dumeki moves first, using Lightning Orb to apply pressure from a distance and test the enemy. As he enters close combat, he realizes the ogre is faster than expected and adjusts his approach. In direct combat, Dumeki realizes the ogre is stronger than expected, close to a red ogre. Even so, he maintains the offensive, aiming to destroy the enemy's weapon to gain an advantage. Dumeki exchanges blows at close range, breaks the ogre's weapon, and creates an opening. In the middle of the fight, he hears an impact and notices Kinu has fallen, momentarily diverting his attention. Dumeki runs to Kinu and checks her status. She is unconscious but alive. Relieved, he places her somewhere safe to rest, though still concerned about the situation in the middle of the battle. Seeing Kinu injured, Dumeki becomes enraged and activates his maximum combo, charging with full force against both ogres at once, determined to finish them without holding back. Dumeki goes all out, combining physical strength with Lightning Orb to apply relentless pressure. He lands consecutive blows, throws the enemy against the wall, and maintains the offensive to prevent any reaction. Dumeki uses Air Step to reposition in the air and maintain constant pressure. He provokes the horse-headed ogre but quickly regains composure and keeps his focus, avoiding distractions during combat. Dumeki takes advantage of an opening and lands a decisive blow, throwing the ogre and ending the fight. With both enemies defeated, he takes a deep breath and immediately turns his attention back to Kinu, worried about her condition. After the battle, a light appears. Kinu begins to evolve upon reaching level 30. Dumeki approaches worried, but the transformation completes, she takes on a human form, still with fox traits. Confused and curious, Kinu speaks for the first time as a person, surprising Dumeki with a simple and unexpected request. Kinu appears in human form, leaving Dumeki completely speechless. He quickly tries to cover her and provide clothes, still somewhat lost in the situation. After getting dressed, she maintains an innocent and curious demeanor, while Dumeki, now calmer, tries to act normally. Then another chest appears, and he gets excited by his luck, hoping to obtain something useful now, also thinking about better equipping Kinu. From the chest, Dumeki finds a rare piece of equipment, a legendary ogre set that greatly increases defense. Even though it is male-oriented, he decides to use it anyway. Meanwhile, Kinu wears his cloak without issue, staying protected. Dumeki, now equipped, notices a mechanism on the wall, indicating that there is still something to activate before proceeding. Dumeki puts on the new equipment and gets excited, commenting that he looks like his grandfather. Kinu watches silently, still adapting to her human form. Soon after, the mechanism is activated and a staircase appears, unlocking the path to the next dungeon level. Kinu is clearly happy when praised, even while trying to maintain composure. Dumeki, excited, confirms they have found the path to the core room and decides to move forward. The two enter the staircase toward the next floor, ready to advance even further into the dungeon. They leave the dungeon and arrive at a bright area where a large tree stands out. Guided by a strange presence, they find the dungeon core hidden within it, like a small sanctuary. Without hesitation, Dumeki approaches and absorbs the core directly, ending control over that place. By absorbing the core, Dumeki is recognized as the new dungeon master, with his attributes confirmed above the required level. Soon after, a strange guardian appears, a plush zombie wolf, responding to the new master's commands. Without wasting time, Dumeki uses dungeon points to start organizing the place, already thinking about structure and even clothes for Kinu. Dumeki uses dungeon points and obtains a high-level item, a rare yukata with defensive bonuses. Kinu innocently says she wants to match with him, leaving Dumeki completely speechless. Even so, he agrees and tells her to change, already beginning to treat the dungeon as their territory. The guardian introduces itself as Elis, confirming Dumeki as the master of the Noir dungeon. They formalize the connection, and Elis explains that as master, he can sense and control everything within the labyrinth. Next, Dumeki receives new abilities, Labyrinth Warp and Labyrinth Sync, further expanding his control over the dungeon. Elis explains the new abilities in more detail. Labyrinth Sync allows moving objects and facilities between dungeons and even sharing points, while Labyrinth Warp enables teleportation between controlled areas. Even subordinates can use these functions. Dumeki understands the basics and decides not to dive deeper for now. Since he does not have many accumulated points yet, he prefers to conserve resources and think calmly, planning how to better organize the dungeon before expanding. Kinu appears already changed into the yukata, matching Dumeki, and he is impressed by the result. They decide to return to the Black Forest, leaving the dungeon under Elis's control for now. Before leaving, Dumeki checks Kinu's status, satisfied with her progress, as the two continue as partners more aligned than ever. Dumeki checks Kinu's status and realizes she has become extremely strong. High defense, good healing, and powerful magical attacks. He understands that her human form comes from a special ability and concludes that, with such power, she can become a key asset in future battles. Dumeki concludes that Kinu has become strong and dangerous, despite her cute appearance. Noticing the exhaustion after multiple evolutions, he decides to return to the Black Forest to rest, while Kinu shows that she still wants to become stronger. They use the dungeon teleport and successfully return. Kinu presents herself in human form, while Dumeki explains the situation, confirming that everything went as planned. Back at the base, Ars welcomes them and prepares a room for Kinu. As they decide to rest, Kinu surprises him by asking to share the room with Dumeki, showing her innocence and closeness to him. Kinu admits she is afraid to sleep alone and asks to stay with Dumeki. He hesitates, finding it strange, but eventually gives in, convinced that it is part of taking care of his subordinate. In the end, the two agree to sleep in the same room, with Kinu calm and satisfied. They end up sleeping together, with Kinu peacefully beside him. During the night, Dumeki wakes up for a moment, noticing the closeness, but without an exaggerated reaction. Thus, they rest after everything that happened, ending the day in peace. During the rest, a flashback of Kinu begins. She remembers her origin. She was born in a frozen land, surrounded by other fox monsters. She was just like them at first, living normally among her kind. Over time, Kinu changed. She gained a second tail, and her fur turned golden. Without understanding what was happening, she was rejected by her own kind, who began to see her as different and dangerous. Even wanting to believe nothing had changed, she realizes that even her own family began to treat her as a threat. Rejected and hunted, Kinu flees without strength, unable to fight alone. Even injured, her desire was not power, but belonging. To have family, friends, and not be judged for being different. Exhausted and without strength, Kinu accepts the worst as she faces a pack of wolves. Without hope, she decides to stop running, believing that this would be the end, tired of fighting alone. Even cornered and injured, Kinu refuses to accept the end. At the last moment, she awakens her will to live and decides to fight until the end, facing the pack despite being at a disadvantage. When everything seemed lost, Dumeki appears and saves Kinu. He defeats the wolves with ease and even takes care of her, making Kinu realize that, for the first time, she does not feel fear and finds someone she can trust. After saving her, Dumeki realizes that Kinu was alone and vulnerable. Without hesitation, he offers help and invites her to go with him, giving her the chance to finally not be alone anymore. Kinu accepts the invitation and forms a bond with Dumeki, feeling something warm for the first time. He gives her a name, strengthening the connection, and promises that they can stay together even if they are different, creating the beginning of their partnership. Kinu remembers everything she experienced with Dumeki. She became stronger, evolved, and they fought together. Even so, seeing him worry about her, she feels she has not yet repaid him and decides she wants to become someone useful to him. Determined, Kinu expresses her desire to become like Dumeki, someone strong and reliable. Upon waking, she reaffirms herself before him, showing that her decision is not just emotional, it is a step to evolve and fight alongside him as an equal. Kinu accepts who she has become and gains confidence. She knows Dumeki would never abandon her. She understands that, regardless of form or race, what matters is the bond between them and decides to cherish every moment by his side, believing that even happier days will come. Kinu recognizes that Dumeki has become the most important person to her. Even knowing he will help many others, she decides to stay by his side, grow stronger, and share her dreams, wanting to become someone special in his life. The boy wakes up and notices the girl sleeping beside him. He remains quiet, observing her and avoiding waking her up. The girl wakes up and realizes that the boy is already awake. After confirming that everything was real, she gets up excited. Then, he calls both of them to talk about something important, and they get ready to go together. The boy gathers everyone for a conversation and explains that he wants to talk about the recent events and his plans for the future. As he presents his ideas, the others listen carefully and analyze the situation. During the conversation, he acknowledges that meeting the girl changed his way of thinking, realizing that he is no longer alone. From that point on, the group begins to better understand the connection between them and the path they will follow together from then on. The boy reveals his true objective, explaining that he wants to form a strong group alongside people he trusts. He shares his ambition to build something lasting, inspired by the idea of a united community. By affirming his determination, he makes it clear that he wants to move forward alongside his companions, creating a solid bond and advancing together toward the future. The group reacts positively to the plan and shows interest in putting it into practice. The boy then defines the first steps, suggesting using the labyrinth as the base for the new group. As they discuss the idea, a doubt arises about the possibility of transforming the place. After analyzing the situation, they understand that labyrinths have specific functions linked to the world's energy, which makes the plan difficult, but not entirely impossible. They explain that labyrinths have the function of circulating the world's magical energy, which is essential to sustain life and generate resources, and that without this flow, it is not possible to make progress within the system, leading the boy to reflect on why they are revealing this at that moment. They discuss the possibility of closing the labyrinth's entrance to control the energy, but realize that doing so would make it unusable. Then the boy proposes using this system strategically to expand his base, raising the idea of synchronizing with the labyrinth, which surprises the group. The boy defines the plan to build a city using the labyrinth as a base, starting with a simple structure and gradually expanding with the energy and resources obtained, creating a safe and functional place for everyone. He explains that by linking the city to the labyrinth, he would create a cycle where more people attract more energy, continuously strengthening both, which excites the group as they realize this would allow them to grow without limits and with greater security. He points out two problems in the plan. There is no reason for humans to help, and his monster-like appearance makes acceptance difficult. Even so, he considers using the city entrance to gather information and reorganize his identity as an adventurer, seeking a way to make the group's creation viable. He comes up with an idea to work around the problem, remembering an ancient race and deciding to use it as a justification for his appearance. With that, he starts considering presenting himself as someone from a distant region, creating an identity that could be accepted by others. He decides to use this new identity to move forward with the plan and concludes that he can make it work. Then defines the next step as going to the city and registering as an adventurer, while instructing the others to keep evolving and preparing for what lies ahead. He organizes the next steps, asking the group to maintain contact from a distance and defining an initial regrouping before heading to the city, where they intend to begin the plan. Then departing through a magical means of transportation. They set off toward the city, deciding to follow the path while facing challenges to evolve, while the boy prepares to adapt to combat in human form and proceed with the plan. During the journey, they are attacked by creatures, and the girl reacts quickly, facing the enemy with magic and eliminating the threat as they continue advancing. After the battle, the boy recognizes the girl's growth and notices that her magic has evolved to another level, but soon his attention is drawn to something approaching in the distance. A carriage approaches at high speed, catching the group's attention. When it stops, a new figure appears, generating surprise and raising questions about who it is and what is happening. The newcomer recognizes the boy and understands the situation, while explaining that the girl can take on a human form. Then she reveals that she urgently needs help due to a problem involving a nearby labyrinth, leading the group to consider the new situation. They discover that monsters are coming out of a nearby labyrinth and increasing in number, putting an entire village at risk. And faced with the newcomer's desperation, the boy decides to help and proceeds with the group to the location. During the journey, they confirm that the situation is a massive monster invasion coming from the labyrinth, while the messenger explains that the village is already trying to resist, but won't be able to hold on for long, increasing the urgency of the mission. They discover that the village is divided between fleeing or resisting, but without a safe destination for evacuation, which makes the situation critical and forces the group to quickly think of a solution. The boy proposes evacuating the residents, while the strongest hold back the monsters, ensuring safety with adjustments to the plan, and decides to reveal part of his secret to make the strategy viable. The messenger agrees to keep the secret, and the boy reveals that he is responsible for a labyrinth, offering it as a safe refuge to evacuate everyone, giving clear direction to the rescue plan. He defines that while the residents evacuate, it will be necessary to contain the monster invasion, takes control of the strategy, and coordinates the group, maintaining contact to align actions as they head toward the village. They understand that the invasion is caused by a lack of energy in the labyrinth, which leads to the massive release of monsters, and conclude that defeating them in large numbers can help stabilize the situation and contain the advance. They conclude that the labyrinth has collapsed and will continue generating monsters until it is destroyed, so the boy defines a plan. Eliminate waves of enemies to buy time while organizing the evacuation and strengthening their own base. They confirm the plan and divide responsibilities, with the girl taking on a risky task while the group moves to act, and the messenger, though worried, thanks them for the help as everything begins to move into action. The boy takes the lead and initiates the village rescue operation, giving the signal for everyone to act and put the plan into practice. Upon spotting the village, the boy confirms the start of the plan and splits the group to act as agreed, initiating the rescue operation. Upon arrival, they find the village under attack, with residents desperately fighting against monsters, and the group immediately joins the battle to help them. The girl takes the front line against the monsters, while the boy organizes actions, ordering the residents to retreat and begin evacuation, dividing the group to contain the attack and protect the village. He delegates the protection of the residents to the village warriors, making it clear that the priority is evacuation. While he and his allies move to face the monsters directly, he prepares to enter the battle and decides to fight on the front line, while the girl ensures she will provide support and eliminate any remaining enemies, coordinating their actions to protect everyone. He activates a skill that temporarily increases his strength and speed and advances against the monsters, clearing a path with direct attacks and initiating a large-scale confrontation. He advances, defeating several enemies quickly, but notices that the waves are getting stronger, with higher-level monsters beginning to appear, increasing the danger of the battle. After facing several waves, the group realizes that there is still a large number of enemies left, and during the fight, the boy feels something changing within him, indicating a possible evolution in the middle of battle. The girl takes control of the situation while the boy, feeling the effects of the change, trusts her to continue the fight, and soon after, his evolution is automatically triggered, initiating an unexpected transformation in the middle of battle. Amid the transformation, the boy completes his evolution and assumes a new form, feeling his power increase drastically, and soon prepares to unleash an even stronger attack, warning the girl to move away as he decides to end the battle once and for all. With his new form, he advances alone against the horde, facing even stronger enemies that appear in the final waves, determined to eliminate them all at once and turn the tide of the battle. He faces the final wave of monsters with confidence, preparing a decisive attack and advancing to eliminate them all at once, determined to end the battle there. He concentrates his energy and activates an even more powerful version of his ability, channeling lightning into his weapon and preparing the final blow to destroy all enemies at once. He advances at high speed, surrounded by energy, cutting through the horde while opening a path straight to the center of the chaos, preparing to strike the decisive point of the battle. At the center of the fight, he concentrates energy and creates multiple electric orbs, releasing them to cause a massive explosion that hits the entire surrounding area, advancing decisively to end the confrontation. He raises his power even further, leaps into the sky with concentrated energy, and from above, prepares his ultimate attack to hit the entire horde at once and end the battle. He unleashes his ultimate attack, concentrating all his energy into a devastating blow that strikes the ground with crushing force, destroying the horde of monsters and causing a massive impact that completely changes the battlefield. He explains that the invasion will not stop until the labyrinth's core is destroyed, so he decides to eliminate the first wave to buy time while organizing the evacuation of the village to a safe location, preparing everyone for the next waves still to come. He defines that only he and the girl will face the monsters while the others handle the evacuation, making it clear that if the situation worsens, they will retreat, but without abandoning those still fighting. After the devastating attack, he confirms that he cleared the area and, after checking that everyone is safe, organizes an immediate return to the village while continuing the mission. Back in the village, they reunite and confirm that the evacuation is underway, while the boy assures that he eliminated the monsters in the area, temporarily stabilizing the situation. The village leader thanks them for the help and confirms that they need to act quickly, as they have little time, while the boy downplays the credit and directs the focus to the next steps of the plan. The evacuation is organized quickly, as the residents receive instructions and prepare to leave the village toward a safe location. Under coordination, everyone begins to move as a group, including those who had hesitated before, now convinced after witnessing the boy's power. As they follow the movement, he realizes that the situation was more serious than it seemed, and when called for a conversation, he prepares to deal with the next developments of the plan. The boy proposes that she becomes his ally and helps with his future plans, highlighting that there is an important role that only she can fulfill, especially in the financial and organizational aspects, and even though she feels insecure, she accepts and decides to join him. He proposes a subordination contract, making it clear that it does not limit her actions, and after accepting without hesitation, they seal the agreement, officially establishing the alliance between them. After following the plan, the group returns to the village and confirms that the evacuation was successfully completed, with everyone taken to safety, while the boy already begins thinking about the next steps and future organization, also noticing the unexpected absence of one of the allies. They arrive inside the labyrinth and find a surprising space where the new ally introduces herself and meets the rest of the group, while he reveals that that place is the core of the labyrinth and the base of the entire operation. He gathers the group and explains that he intends to leave the resolution of the crisis to the adventurers, both to avoid drawing attention and to create a plausible explanation for what happened, while they continue with the plan of building a new base without direct interference. He explains that he will leave the final solution of the invasion to the adventurers, both to avoid drawing attention and to create a convincing explanation for the humans, while the group continues with their own plans discreetly. He defines the next step, sending the ally to the guild to warn about the invasion and direct attention to another city, causing adventurers and authorities to mobilize quickly, while the group continues acting behind the scenes. He decides to hold back the invasion for a while alongside the girl to show support to the adventurers, while sending the ally to notify the guild and coordinate the response, maintaining contact at a distance as the plan continues in execution. Days later, the plan begins to show results. Adventurers are mobilized by the guild and advance toward the region while the information spreads and a suppression force is formed. With that, the group observes that everything is proceeding as planned, using the situation to draw attention and strengthen their position as the crisis gathers more and more combatants. He decides to simply hold the line while waiting for the next events, avoiding drawing attention, and together with the girl prepares to continue facing the monsters until the right moment to act. They continue fighting the monsters on the front line, demonstrating enough strength to hold the invasion before the arrival of the adventurers, making it clear to anyone approaching that they are fighting as allies and protecting the region. A group of adventurers arrives at the location and introduces themselves, offering help upon seeing the situation, while recognizing the boy as someone who had already been fighting to save everyone, and they join the battle alongside him. The adventurer joins the fight alongside the boy, sharing the front line while coordinating attacks, increasing the pressure against the monsters, and strengthening the defense of the area. The adventurer demonstrates great skill by eliminating several enemies at once, noticing that more reinforcements are arriving, and prepares to advance even further together with the rest of the group in the battle. The adventurers fully engage in the battle and confront the monsters in close combat, advancing with coordinated attacks while holding the line alongside the boy's group. The girl continues providing support with ranged attacks while the adventurers advance, and the boy realizes that his next evolution is about to begin, deciding to step away to return to the labyrinth and deal with it. Upon returning to the labyrinth, he finds the girl fallen and unconscious, which makes him immediately run to her, realizing that something went wrong during his absence. As he approaches, he realizes that she is not injured, only transformed into a larger form after the evolution, and upon seeing her wake up, he confirms that she is fine, even though he is surprised by the change. They analyze the result of the evolution and realize that the girl maintained her human form but gained more advanced abilities, with strengthened magic and new support capabilities, making the group more stable and prepared for what comes next. They decide to leave the rest of the invasion in the hands of the adventurers and focus on their own plans, expanding and strengthening their base, until days later they receive the news that the core was destroyed and the crisis has come to an end. The ally returns to the labyrinth and confirms that the invasion was contained by the adventurers, bringing information that few people know the details of what happened, while the group gathers again to align the next steps. She returns with rewards and information from the guild, explaining that the adventurers were paid for the mission and that the feat gained recognition, while he decides to continue gathering data and monitoring the situation to keep the plan under control. With the points obtained from the crisis, he expands the labyrinth to new floors, organizing easier levels for beginners and deeper areas for experienced adventurers, while the group begins to focus on the continuous development of the base. He starts structuring the base as a city, requesting the construction of shops and an inn, placing the ally in charge of administration, and using his own resources as an initial investment to make the place grow. They plan to integrate the village into the labyrinth by building a direct entrance, designate the ally as the representative of the community, and continue expanding the base, while reorganizing the old labyrinth to transform it into the group's main center. He decides to head to the city with the girl to register as adventurers, setting the goal of reaching rank B in order to form a clan, while leaving the rest of the group responsible for continuing to develop the base. While the base continues being organized and structured, he departs with the girl toward the city, starting the next stage of the plan as they arrive at the new destination. Upon arriving in the city, the two draw attention due to their different appearance, but they remain firm and head to the Adventurers Guild, ready to begin their new phase. Upon entering the guild, he tries to avoid trouble, but is soon recognized for what he did during the invasion. Even so, he remains focused and declares that he came to register as an adventurer, being immediately directed to meet the guild leader, who was already waiting for him. They are taken to the guild leader, who already knew their reputation and receives them in a direct and confident manner. He introduces himself as the local authority and shows interest in the duo's recent feat, creating an atmosphere of respect mixed with curiosity, as he officially initiates the first contact between them. In front of the guild leader, the two are formally received while he introduces himself and confirms his position, making it clear that he already knows who they are. The protagonist observes in silence, assessing the situation, while the girl watches attentively, marking the beginning of an important conversation with someone influential in the city. They introduce themselves officially and explain that they came to register, finding the way they were received unusual. The guild leader reacts in a relaxed manner, revealing that he was once an adventurer and that he heard about their performance during the invasion, praising their strength. Then, he proposes to put them to the test, asking them to demonstrate their abilities to confirm the reputation that has been spreading. The leader explains that normally they would start at the lowest rank, but opens the possibility of rising quickly if they prove their strength. Excited about the chance to advance immediately, the protagonist accepts without hesitation, and the two are guided to the place where they will take the test, beginning another stage to show what they are capable of. They are taken to the guild's underground training field, where several adventurers are already waiting to evaluate their abilities. The leader organizes a direct test, gathering higher-rank fighters to face them. Upon realizing the level of the group, the protagonist decides to hold his partner back, explaining that her magic is too powerful and could be dangerous in that type of combat, indicating that he will likely take the front line in the test. The leader defines a simple test to measure her level, asking her to cast a spell at a specific target. Before that, the protagonist instructs her not to use enhancement abilities and to fight only with the basics, so as not to reveal too much. Even so, she accepts confidently and prepares her magic, while the adventurers around watch attentively, curious to see the result. She casts the spell with precision and completely destroys the target, surprising everyone by demonstrating power far above what was expected. Even though it was a target reinforced against magic, she destroys it with ease, shocking the adventurers who realize that her power is far above the norm. While everyone is still trying to understand what they saw, the protagonist takes his turn, confident and ready to face the next test. The leader changes the test after realizing their level and decides to use a much more resistant physical target, something designed to withstand high-level attacks. The protagonist accepts without using enhancements, maintaining the idea of not revealing everything, and prepares himself confidently, even asking if he can break the target, making it clear that he intends to demonstrate his strength directly. He strikes the target with a direct blow and completely destroys it, breaking something made to withstand heavy attacks. The impact leaves everyone shocked, confirming that his strength is also far above normal, just like hers. After seeing the demonstration from both of them, the leader acknowledges that their strength is undeniable, but still follows the guild's rules and sets their initial rank as C. He explains that, starting from the lowest level, this is the maximum they can receive immediately, but makes it clear that they will rise quickly based on the performance they showed. After the test, the leader calls the two for a private conversation and gets straight to the point, questioning who they really are. The protagonist had already expected this suspicion and shows that he is prepared, indicating that he has already thought of a story to support their identity. He invents a convincing story, saying that they lived isolated in the forest since childhood, surviving by hunting monsters, which would explain their high level. He also reveals their origins in a simple way and states that they only started traveling after becoming strong enough. The leader accepts the explanation and begins to better understand where that unusual strength comes from. After the explanation, the leader accepts the story and establishes a partnership with them. Then, the two complete their registration at the guild and officially receive their Rank C adventurer identifications, marking the beginning of their new phase as recognized members. Now registered as adventurers, the two feel excited about the new phase and celebrate their official return to the guild. Then, they decide to prepare better, planning to restock items such as potions and buy equipment, while also taking the opportunity to explore the city more calmly before the next missions. They begin equipping themselves, buying potions and basic items, and continue exploring the city's shops in search of more equipment. During the outing, they are approached by someone interested in them, interrupting the calm moment and indicating that a new encounter is about to happen. A female warrior approaches them nervously, clearly hesitant, and gathers courage to ask for a conversation. From her posture and expression, it is evident that she has something important to discuss with the protagonist, initiating a possible new involvement. She loses her courage while trying to speak, freezes for a moment, and suddenly throws herself to the ground in desperation, making an extreme request to him. The scene catches everyone off guard, making the moment completely unexpected and tense. The situation draws the attention of everyone around, leaving the protagonist confused by the unexpected scene. Noticing the strange atmosphere, the girl intervenes and tries to calm things down, suggesting that they talk in a more private place. The warrior agrees, still nervous, while the onlookers continue watching. They move away from the crowd while the warrior follows behind, still visibly shaken. Along the way, the protagonist becomes suspicious of her behavior, but the girl realizes that she is not a bad person, just overly emotional. Seeking some peace, they take her to a quieter place to finally hear what she has to say. Now seated in a calm place, she tries to explain, still nervous, saying that she had been looking for him and wanted to offer herself to be devoured, leaving the protagonist completely confused. The girl steps in to calm the situation and asks her to take it easy, while the warrior begins to compose herself and reveals that she used to be an orc guard, beginning her true explanation. She starts explaining her past, revealing that she was a weak and despised orc guard, and recalls her encounter with him when she was ignored and not even considered worthy of being fought. Upon hearing this, the protagonist finally recognizes who she is, connecting her to the incident in the labyrinth from before. She reveals her identity. She is now an orc queen, and thanks to a humanization ability, assumed that form. She introduces herself as Shink and shows respect toward him, while the protagonist reacts in surprise upon realizing who she truly is. The conversation then continues more calmly, setting the stage for her to tell everything in detail. Now calmer, they sit down to talk while Shink continues her story. She explains that in the past, she was a weak and insignificant orc, with no value even as a source of strength for someone powerful like him. The protagonist listens carefully, understanding better how much she has changed since then, but still questions the main reason behind everything, why she wants to be devoured by him. Shink states that she trained hard to become worthy of being consumed by him and insists on that desire. Kinu realizes that deep down she just wants to feel needed, while the protagonist begins to understand her motivation. The protagonist acknowledges her effort and decides to help her grow instead of accepting her as a sacrifice. Kinu suggests that Shink join them as a companion, completely changing the course of the situation. Surprised, Shink hesitates, but the proposal opens a new chance for her to find purpose alongside them. Shink, emotional, accepts the proposal and thanks them, showing relief and happiness. Even insecure, she commits to doing her best, now determined to serve and grow alongside them as a companion. Shink's past is shown when she was still a simple, unnamed orc guard. After meeting the protagonist, she began to admire him and created an extreme goal, to become worthy of being consumed by him. Upon seeing other orcs being devoured and serving as nutrition, she developed this desire, even defining herself as someone who wanted to fulfill that role at any cost. After the encounter with him, Shink changes completely and decides that she wants to see him again. In this process, she awakens a new ability, starting to understand the language of other monsters. However, when trying to leave, she is treated as a traitor by the other orcs, who try to stop her by force, initiating a confrontation as she remains determined to escape. Determined to achieve her goal, Shink faces the other orcs without hesitation, fighting to carve a path and escape. Even being attacked by several at once, she does not back down, guided by her desire to become stronger and worthy. During her escape and battles, her body begins to evolve, taking on a more powerful guardian orc form, marking the beginning of her transformation. As she approaches the human world, Shink observes two men talking and begins to better understand their tastes and thoughts. Upon hearing superficial comments, she realizes that strength and intelligence alone would not be enough, and starts to conclude that she also needed to change her appearance and the way she presents herself to get closer to the human ideal. Shink has a revelation and decides that she needs to evolve beyond strength, aiming to become more attractive to humans. She starts observing and learning in secret, treating adventurers as references, and dedicates time to studying what men like, determined to shape herself to achieve her goal. The next day, Shink leaves the forest in search of more power and continues training as she moves forward. During her journey, she ends up being seen by humans and hunted as a monster, being forced to flee while continuing her path, determined to grow stronger. During the journey, Shink finds a halberd abandoned by an adventurer. Seeing an opportunity, she decides to take the weapon and continue her journey better equipped, further strengthening her combat ability. A few days later, Shink finds the entrance to a dungeon and decides to challenge it to become stronger. She advances to the boss room and, after a difficult battle, manages to win, proving her growth and determination. Even after winning, Shink continues training in the dungeon, repeating the challenge multiple times to become even stronger. With each attempt, she improves her performance and begins to defeat the enemy more easily, clearly noticing her evolution, although she still feels she needs more training. During the intense training, Shink evolves again and takes on an even more powerful form, solidifying herself as an orc queen. After this change, she takes a break to catch her breath, already showing how much she has grown, while enjoying a rare moment of calm before continuing her journey. After evolving, Shink decides to check her status and continues observing her surroundings, still focused on growing more. At that moment, she hears nearby humans talking about the city of Reclia and sees an opportunity to learn more from adventurers. As she approaches, she ends up being noticed by them, marking the beginning of a new contact. Upon being seen, Shink is immediately recognized as the Crimson Orc Queen, a title that spread fear among humans. The adventurers panic and flee, making it clear that her reputation has already spread. From then on, she begins to be treated as a threat whenever she appears. Observing the adventurers, Shink discovers the status system and tries to imitate it. Upon managing to activate it, she sees her own information confirming that she is now an orc queen and realizes that this could help her better understand her evolution and become even stronger. Curious about the ability, Shink decides to test it. Upon activating humanization, her body begins to gradually transform, indicating that this technique is exactly what allows her to assume a more human form, something essential to get closer to her goal. The transformation completes, and Shink finally assumes a fully human form. Surprised and excited, she realizes the potential of this ability, and understands that she can now get even closer to the ideal she seeks, seeing this as a major step forward in her journey. Now in human form, Shink decides to go to the city to learn more from humans without causing fear. Along the way, upon encountering female adventurers, she gathers courage and decides to approach them to ask questions and better understand how to behave. When trying to speak with the adventurers, Shink ends up making a basic mistake. She appears without clothes, causing immediate shock. The women are startled and scold her, explaining the situation while rushing to cover her. Shink, not fully understanding, realizes that even in human form, she still needs to learn the basic rules of coexistence. To avoid raising suspicion, Shink makes up a story saying that she was attacked by monsters and lost her equipment. The adventurers believe her, feel sympathy, and decide to help her by offering an escort to the city. She accepts, leaving her items behind with the intention of retrieving them later, thus managing to approach humans without causing suspicion. During the conversation, Shink finally asks the meaning of va-va-voom. The adventurers laugh at the question and explain in a simple way that it is something used to compliment someone attractively, basically meaning, "You are beautiful." Upon hearing this, Shink is surprised, better understanding the kind of charm she wants to achieve. After hearing the explanation, Shink realizes that, without noticing, she already had that va-va-voom. Even finding the situation amusing, she understands the concept better. Soon after, she arrives at the city of Reclia, becoming impressed by everything around her. The adventurers say goodbye, wish her luck, and leave her there to follow her own path in the human world. Determined, Shink decides to become an adventurer and is taken to the guild. After registering, she retrieves her equipment and begins accepting missions, quickly learning how the human world works. Thus, she officially begins her journey as an adventurer, starting at the lowest rank. Shink evolves quickly and soon reaches rank C as an adventurer. With constant training, she masters the humanization ability, being able to use it freely. Even so, she realizes that something is still missing to complete her ideal and concludes that the next step is to become a maid. Shink continues searching for something related to maid and ends up encountering a boastful adventurer who talks about it. However, the guy was only bluffing to seem important and soon runs away, begging not to be exposed. Confused, Shink realizes she still has not learned anything useful and continues her search for answers. Finally, Shink receives a useful tip. To become a maid, she first needs a uniform. Without wasting time, she uses the money from missions to have an outfit made. When she goes out wearing it, she draws attention wherever she goes. But to her, this is just another step toward achieving her goal. With the complete uniform, Shink sees herself as the perfect form for her goal. Determined, she promises to fully dedicate herself to becoming the ideal nourishment for that man. Before that, she records everything she has learned and experienced, leaving her notes as proof of her journey up to that point. Shink, now confident in her new form, sees herself as someone capable of guiding other women and remains determined in her goal. However, upon sensing a familiar scent, her attention immediately shifts. She recognizes An's presence. Upon seeing him with Kinu, she is surprised, indicating that the reunion she had long wanted has finally happened. Determined after her entire journey, Shink gives thanks for having been heard up to that point, and, upon spotting An, gathers courage. Without hesitation, she runs toward him, announcing that she has reached her final moment, ready to finally fulfill the goal that guided her entire evolution. While all of this is happening, An walks through the city, reflecting, realizing how he has grown accustomed to Kinu's presence by his side. Even so, he decides to continue with his own plans for now. At the same time, it is indicated that Kinu and Shink return to the Forêt Noire forest, suggesting that their paths begin to separate again. An decides to better prepare himself to live among humans and begins looking for an item that hides the fact that he is a monster. Thinking about spending more time in the city as an adventurer, he analyzes accessories and their prices, planning to invest in something that helps him blend in without raising suspicion. An considers using his points to expand the dungeon, but decides to hold off and focus on something more immediate. Remembering the armor shop, he goes there in search of useful accessories. After looking around for a while, he finds exactly what he needed, becoming excited at the possibility of obtaining an item that helps him better disguise himself among humans. An finds concealment items, rings, and necklaces, and manages to buy them at a low price, securing a way to hide his true nature. Satisfied, he heads to the guild, decides to focus on rank C missions, and plans to register the group when Kinu is with him, while continuing to work alone for now. At the guild, An finds a different kind of request, an investigation mission in the Morphia forest. Finding it strange, since rank C missions are usually subjugation ones, he asks for more details. The attendant explains that the forest's ecosystem has been changing recently, making it an official investigation. Interested, An decides to accept the request. The attendant explains that Morphia Forest normally has low-rank monsters, but now there are reports of stronger creatures coming from the Crimson Ravine and mixing into the area. Because of this, the mission is only for investigation, not direct combat. Even so, she warns that fighting could be dangerous at his level. An accepts and asks for permission to act as needed during the mission. An's mission is accepted, and at the guild he is already recognized as someone strong. After receiving a warning to be careful, he departs alone. Upon arriving at the location, he finally reaches Morphia Forest and begins analyzing the environment, ready to investigate what is happening. As soon as he enters the forest, An comes across adventurers fleeing. They are in panic, warning about a giant scorpion on the loose. Seeing the situation, it becomes clear that the investigation can easily turn into combat, confirming that the area is more dangerous than expected. The giant scorpion appears a rank B monster, confirming the danger of the area. Without hesitation, An tells the adventurers to flee and goes into battle alone. Confidently, he attacks first, showing that he is ready to face something beyond what was expected for the mission. An charges forward without giving space, advancing with full force. He intercepts the scorpion's movement mid-air and unleashes a heavy blow, crushing the monster's body before it can properly react. The impact is brutal, and in just moments the rank B scorpion is defeated, making it clear that An's power level is far above what was expected for that mission. After defeating the scorpion, An comments that it took longer than he expected, while the adventurers are shocked that he defeated a rank B monster alone. They thank him for the help and explain that they came only to investigate, but the situation is far more dangerous. Observing the area, An confirms that the forest's ecosystem has indeed changed, and also notices a mention of Shink, indicating that something may be connected to her. After saving the group, An decides to continue investigating alone and instructs the adventurers to return to Reclia and report everything to the guild. They agree, thank him, and finally ask for his name. After introducing himself, An says goodbye, while they wish him to be careful, making clear the respect they have gained for him. An continues alone through the forest and keeps eliminating monsters with ease, maintaining focus on the investigation. An keeps defeating several strong monsters and notices a pattern, different and powerful species appearing together. From this, he concludes that the forest's ecosystem is collapsing. On realizes that monsters from the Crimson Ravine are invading Morphia Forest, greatly increasing the danger. Concluding the investigation, he decides to return to the city to report the situation. Back at the guild, On presents proof. He defeated 9 rank B monsters. The attendant is surprised and asks him to take everything to the dismantling area for verification, confirming the seriousness of the situation. At the dismantling area, On begins delivering the monster bodies, but the quantity is overwhelming, it does not even fit on the table. The person in charge tells him to place the rest in the back, while everyone is shocked by how many strong creatures he defeated alone. Upon analyzing the bodies, they confirm that all are from the Crimson Ravine, reinforcing that there has been an invasion. Impressed by the quantity, they increase Anne's reward. With that, the mission is marked as complete, and the guild acknowledges that the forest is far more dangerous than expected. An finishes the report and arranges to collect the reward the next day. After that, he returns home, ending the mission as Kinu receives him. Upon arriving home, An is welcomed by Kinu and Shink. Shink already positions herself as a servant, excited, and Kinu comments that she will now accompany them. An accepts the idea and says he also has something to give both of them, keeping the atmosphere light after the mission. An gives accessories that hide status to Kinu and Shink to use in the city. Both are happy and thank him. Then, he defines the next step. Starting the next day, they will focus on completing many missions to quickly rise to rank B. An mentions that they will register the group and asks for ideas for a name. Kinu remembers his magic, especially the black lightning, and suggests something related to it, connecting it to the meaning of a fierce thunder strike. Kinu suggests the name Black Thunder Clap, inspired by An's magic, and everyone immediately approves. The group is officially decided with that name, and they end the day planning to register the party the next day. At night, the atmosphere becomes calm. Kinu and Shink grow even closer, while An relaxes after the intense day. With everything settled for now, he simply rests, preparing for the next day. During the night, An notices that Kinu ended up falling asleep beside him. He just accepts the situation naturally and goes back to resting, maintaining a light atmosphere between them. The next morning, Shink prepares breakfast and greets An enthusiastically. He praises the food and she, a bit nervous, waits for approval. The atmosphere is light, showing a routine beginning to form between them. Shink asks to take responsibility for all meals, and An agrees. She becomes radiant, and Kinu also approves, making it clear that both are becoming more comfortable, while the group's routine strengthens. With everyone gathered, they begin breakfast together in a calm, team-like atmosphere, ready for a day of missions. At the guild, the group confirms the plan. Take on multiple missions and quickly rise to rank B, starting to clear quests in large quantities. After completing several missions, the group quickly rises in rank, and all become rank B adventurers. With that, An recalls his goal of forming a large group, now with companions he can trust. After reaching rank B, the group celebrates the achievement. An sees this as the first step toward realizing his dream of forming a great clan, and already begins the process to officially establish the group. The officialization of the clan will take a few days, but the group is already excited about the future. Shink wants to be more useful. Kinu points out that now they can grow together, and An reflects that becoming a monster ended up being a positive turning point in his life. Some adventurers appear severely injured, and An reacts immediately. He asks Kinu to use healing magic while applying a potion, showing that the group acts quickly to save lives, not just to fight. The injured begin to recover and reveal what happened. They were attacked by a threat far beyond expectations. Before passing out, one of them warns that the creature, a black dragon, is heading toward Reclia, drastically increasing the urgency of the situation. The information is confirmed. It is an extremely high-level monster, possibly rank S. The group immediately goes on alert. They prioritize taking the injured for treatment, but already understand that the situation is critical, with the threat located in Morphia Forest and capable of reaching the city at any moment. The group is called to the office and informed about the situation. The guild had already sent a rank A, a party to investigate the changes in Morphia Forest, which began weeks ago. The current threat seems to be linked to that, indicating that the problem is much bigger than it seemed. The guild leader admits the severity. There are no rank S adventurers available, and even while requesting reinforcements, the dragon may reach the city before they arrive. Because of this, he makes a direct request to An to delay the creature's advance. He makes it clear that it is a special mission, practically a desperate request, since An is the only one there strong enough to try to buy time. The mission is officially classified as Rank S, involving an extremely dangerous monster. Even so, An accepts without hesitation, willing to face the challenge, and asks only for the details to act. The guild explains that reinforcements are already on the way, but may take up to a day. The priority is to buy time and allow the city's evacuation. If possible, defeat the dragon but without acting recklessly. An understands the situation and accepts the responsibility. Kinu and Shink confirm that they will support An without hesitation. The guild leader, still worried, places his trust in them. Without wasting time, An sets off, focused on the mission of stopping the dragon before it is too late. The leader regains some hope and authorizes the departure. An takes control of the situation, leaving the city's defense in their hands while he goes to face the dragon. The group leaves the city and soon spots the threat in the distance. Upon noticing the dragon approaching, everyone understands that the confrontation is about to begin. The dragon appears and advances quickly. An realizes the speed is higher than expected, decides to go ahead, and uses an electric attack to try to bring it down while the others catch up. An moves alone, leaps into the attack, and advances with full force against the dragon, initiating the direct confrontation. The attack hits, and the dragon reacts with a violent roar, showing that it was struck, but is still far from falling. An uses a strike to knock the dragon out of the air. Kinu prepares magic aimed at the wings, while Shink takes the front line to distract and hold the creature's attention. Shink provokes the dragon and uses Taunt, drawing all attention to herself and protecting Kinu while she prepares the attack. The dragon charges with full force, but An intercepts and lands a solid hit, managing to injure it and disrupt the rhythm of its assault. Kinu fires magic and explodes the dragon's attack, opening space. Then Shink steps in front and blocks, preventing the creature from advancing. Shink is hit while defending, but holds the attack. Kinu immediately uses healing, and she gets back up, saying she can still fight. An lands another strong blow on the dragon, but it still resists. Then the creature targets Kinu, forcing everyone to react quickly to protect her. Shink tells An to finish it, but they notice something strange. The dragon seems to be suffering, as if in intense pain. They realize that the dragon is not acting of its own will. It seems to be affected by something. Even so, they decide to keep fighting while trying to discover the cause, with the possibility of saving it. An changes strategy. He tells Shink to keep provoking, Kinu to focus on the wings, and he moves closer to analyze the dragon's condition, launching a new attack. An approaches in the air, notices something strange about the dragon, and activates a skill to analyze the situation before striking. An identifies the cause. The dragon is being affected by a demon's sword, something external controlling or corrupting it. The demonic sword appears before the creature as the warrior approaches, surrounded by a powerful aura. Without hesitating, he charges forward and delivers a brutal strike against the enormous dragon, starting the confrontation in an overwhelming way. The warrior realizes that the cause of the dragon's fury is connected to the demonic sword embedded in its back. After analyzing the situation, he concludes that removing the sword may stop the creature's rampage, but to do that, it will be necessary to immobilize the dragon, even if only for a few moments. After thinking of a solution, the warrior decides to use the special mushrooms he had collected earlier, believing they may temporarily affect the dragon's abnormal state. While preparing the plan, he asks the others to continue distracting the creature and buying time for the attempt to work. The warrior gathers a large quantity of the mushrooms and places them inside an improvised sack. Convinced that it might work, he prepares to force the dragon to consume everything, while the others continue holding the creature back during the chaos of the battle. The plan is set into motion as the two female warriors take the front line to attract all of the dragon's attention. Taking advantage of the opening, the warrior positions himself with the sack of mushrooms, waiting for the perfect moment to make the creature swallow the massive amount all at once. While the dragon is distracted by the attacks of the female warriors, the warrior takes advantage of the opening and throws the mushrooms directly into the creature's mouth. The impact lands perfectly, beginning the desperate attempt to contain the monster's fury. The moment the dragon opens its mouth, the warrior rushes forward without hesitation and shoves the entire sack of mushrooms down the creature's throat. While the monster thrashes around violently, the others continue attacking to prevent any reaction and keep the plan working. After the creature swallows the mushrooms, the dragon finally begins to slow down and its movements become compromised. Realizing that the plan worked, the group quickly organizes themselves to take advantage of the opportunity and remove the demonic sword before the monster attacks again. With the dragon weakened, the group continues pressuring the creature while using support magic to keep its movements limited. After several minutes, the effect finally stabilizes the monster, creating the perfect opportunity to proceed with removing the demonic sword. With the dragon finally motionless, the warrior approaches the demonic sword and tries to rip it out by force. However, the moment he pulls the weapon, he realizes that the sword has fused with the creature's body, making the removal far more difficult than he had imagined. Determined to finish everything once and for all, the warrior concentrates all of his strength and surrounds his body with energy before violently pulling the demonic sword. The impact pierces through the dragon's body while the weapon slowly begins detaching itself from the creature. After an enormous effort, the warrior finally succeeds in pulling the demonic sword out of the dragon's body. Freed from the influence of the weapon, the creature begins to regain consciousness and slowly loses all of the aggressiveness that had taken over it. The moment the sword is removed, a dark energy begins escaping from the weapon in a terrifying way. The warrior senses the enormous evil power coming from it and immediately realizes that the demonic sword is far more dangerous than he had imagined. The warrior realizes that, the instant he grabbed the sword, his consciousness was almost overtaken by the weapon's malicious energy. Understanding the absurd danger of that power, the group concludes that the demonic sword was the true cause behind the dragon's uncontrollable fury. After deciding to destroy the demonic sword, the warrior uses a massive club to try to shatter the cursed weapon. Even in the face of the danger posed by the dark energy, he advances without hesitation and delivers a brutal strike against the sword. The blow completely destroys the demonic sword, causing all of the malicious energy to disappear along with the weapon. With the threat finally resolved, the group finishes the mission and decides to return to report everything that happened. Right after the destruction of the demonic sword, an unconscious man suddenly appears at the location, as if he had been freed together with the curse. The group quickly realizes that he is still alive and uses healing magic to stabilize his injuries while he struggles to regain consciousness and understand what happened. After partially regaining consciousness, the man looks at the warrior in surprise as he notices the presence of someone connected to the Oni. During the conversation, he reveals an unexpected connection to the warrior's past, making it clear that there is an old relationship between them. The tension immediately rises after the revelation, causing one of the companions to react aggressively toward the stranger. Before the situation spirals out of control, the man senses the danger and completely changes his attitude, trying to apologize and ease the tension within the group. After being intimidated by the group, the man finally drops his arrogant attitude and sincerely apologizes. A few minutes later, he properly introduces himself and acknowledges that he owes his life to the group for freeing him from the influence of the demonic sword. Even after apologizing, the man continues trying to prove his loyalty to the group while everyone begins questioning him about the demonic sword and how he became involved with it. However, when trying to remember the past, he realizes that his memories about what happened are confused and incomplete. While trying to recover his lost memories, the man reveals that he only remembers being attacked from behind while sleeping. The comment immediately catches the group's attention, making them suspect that someone else is behind the entire situation involving the demonic sword and the attack on the dragon. As he continues telling his story, the man reveals that he came from an ancient dragonfolk village and lost everything after being defeated in an important battle. Consumed by frustration and despair, he eventually lost control before being dominated by the demonic sword, while also mentioning the mysterious figure of a red-haired man connected to the incident. During the story, the man explains that he had been sabotaged before the decisive fight and completely lost the ability to use his powers. Unable to react, he ended up being attacked from behind and defeated, realizing too late that everything had been planned against him. After revealing everything he went through, the man admits that he wants to become stronger so he will never lose someone important again. The warrior understands his feelings and agrees to help him, realizing that both of them now share the same goal. The warrior states that growing alongside allies is far better than walking alone, which leads the man to ask to officially join the group. Even while accepting the idea, the group makes it clear that he will still need to follow certain conditions before being fully recognized as a companion. As he watches the bond and trust shared between the group members, the man realizes how alone he has always been. Moved by that feeling, he decides to abandon the pride of his past and declares that he wants to become a true companion by their side. With the agreement finally sealed, the new ally officially becomes part of the group. Despite his exaggerated and energetic personality, he is accepted by the others, marking the beginning of a new partnership after everything involving the demonic sword and the dragon. After accepting the new companion into the group, the warrior decides to analyze his abilities and condition to better understand his true potential. While they try adapting to the new situation, the atmosphere finally becomes lighter after all the battles and tension they had faced earlier. Shortly afterward, other adventurers arrive at the location, worried about the dragon's disappearance and the destruction caused by the battle. Faced with questions about everything that happened, the warrior simply summarizes the situation in a straightforward way, avoiding details about the demonic sword and the more dangerous events. The new ally explains that he lost control after being dominated by the demonic sword and takes responsibility for the damage caused during the attack. Even while blaming himself for what happened, the adventurers recognize that he was also a victim of the weapon's curse and decide not to treat him as an enemy. After the sincere apology, the situation is finally resolved peacefully among everyone involved. With the problem settled, the group resumes discussing the destroyed demonic sword and the mysterious red-haired figure mentioned earlier, realizing that there are still many unanswered questions remaining. The group hands over the remains of the demonic sword so the case can be officially investigated in the capital, while the new ally begins to be treated as a victim of the incident. With everything temporarily resolved, the adventurers say goodbye and go their separate ways, promising to meet again in the future. After resolving all the chaos, the group decides to temporarily follow different paths in order to focus on their own goals. While the warrior plans to continue evolving and becoming stronger, the others prepare to return to the forest, bringing the new companion along to help him adapt to his new life beside them. Without wasting any time, the warrior returns to the forest alongside his companion and immediately begins a new training session. Determined to evolve even faster, he resumes fighting monsters and engaging in intense battles to increase his power. While continuing to hunt monsters in the forest, the warrior notices signs of new enemies hiding within the region. Without lowering his guard, he immediately prepares himself to face yet another battle. During the training, the warrior finally reaches a new evolution and feels his power increase drastically. Upon analyzing his own status, he realizes that he now possesses strength comparable to that of high-level adventurers, even leaving his companion impressed by the speed of his growth. After completing his evolution, the warrior returns to the city alongside his companion. The moment they arrive, the residents immediately recognize the person responsible for saving everyone from the dragon's threat and begin surrounding him with admiration and gratitude for the battle that protected the city. The news of the dragon's defeat spreads rapidly throughout the city, turning the warrior into a true celebrity among the residents. Surrounded by looks of admiration and curiosity, he realizes that everyone now sees him as a hero after saving the city from destruction. After returning to the guild, the group receives praise for their achievement and discovers that the news has already been sent all the way to the royal capital. While discussing the reward and their next steps, they are also informed that they will need to wait a little longer until the entire situation is officially resolved. During the conversation at the guild, the group receives information about another important dragonfolk village located in the nearby plains. As they temporarily say their goodbyes, they also discover that there is a way to contact that region if they ever need to investigate more about the events connected to the dragonfolk in the future. Shortly before leaving the guild, the group receives an invitation to visit the mansion of one of the region's nobles, who wishes to personally thank them for saving the city. Even suspicious about dealing with nobles, the warrior ultimately accepts while continuing to be surrounded by the residents' admiration and attention. After crossing the city while surrounded by the residents' attention, the group finally arrives at the enormous mansion of the noble who invited them. Welcomed by the residents' servants, they are escorted inside while preparing to discover the noble's true reason for the invitation. Inside the mansion, the group finally meets the noble responsible for the invitation, who personally thanks them for resolving the dragon incident. Recognizing the adventurer's accomplishment, he shows interest in maintaining a good relationship with them and makes it clear how important he considers the help they provided during the crisis. After the meeting at the mansion, the group returns home and finds the new companion already trying to adapt to the environment. While everyone talks in a more relaxed way, the atmosphere finally feels peaceful after the entire sequence of battles, revelations, and chaos involving the demonic sword. With everything calmer now, the group decides to temporarily split up to focus on different objectives. While the new ally leaves to gain experience as an adventurer, the others agree to continue investigating the problems connected to the dragon folk and promise to stay in contact if anything important happens. While discussing their next steps, the group decides to begin revealing information about the beastfolk village and the recent events involving the dungeon. Even though it is a risky decision, they believe that acting quickly may prevent even greater problems in the future. The group puts the plan into action and decides to announce the appearance of a new dungeon near the village. Taking advantage of the perfect timing, they use the discovery to draw the guild's attention and create the ideal opportunity to slowly reveal the existence of the beastfolk village without causing immediate panic. Excited by the idea, the warrior begins planning how to turn the new dungeon into a major attraction point for adventurers. The strategy involves rare rewards, village growth, and a gradual increase in the dungeon's difficulty, all to attract more and more people and strengthen the region without needing to conquer the place immediately. With everyone's roles defined, the group finally begins their new plans to develop the dungeon and strengthen the region. While everyone organizes themselves to fulfill their tasks, the warrior watches excitedly as things begin to grow more and more interesting from that point onward. The sudden appearance of the dungeon leaves the entire beastfolk village in shock and concern, since many believe they will be forced to flee once again. As fear begins spreading among the residents, the group tries to calm the situation and prevent panic from taking over the village. Fearing the destruction that a dungeon can cause, the villagers beg for it to be destroyed immediately. However, the warrior interrupts the collective despair and states that the appearance of the dungeon may actually be a great opportunity for the village to become stronger and prosper. The warrior explains that prosperous cities often emerge around dungeons, as long as the monsters are properly controlled. Convinced that the village can grow without being in danger, he proposes working together with the Adventurers Guild to transform the place into a safe region full of opportunities. The warrior continues explaining that the dungeon can bring wealth, adventurers, and development to the village, transforming the place into a bustling city in the future. In addition, he believes that the region's growth can help the beastfolk become more accepted by the world, creating a place where everyone can live in a safer and freer way. The warrior's words begin inspiring the entire village, making the residents see the dungeon no longer as a threat, but as a chance to change their lives. Little by little, fear transforms into excitement, and everyone begins dreaming together about building a great beastfolk city. Excited about the village's future, the residents begin imagining shops, cafes, and several new buildings for the area. Meanwhile, the group continues organizing the plan in secret and informs their allies to officially spread the news about the dungeon's appearance to the Adventurers Guild. A few days later, the new ally successfully registers officially as an adventurer and promises to help the group in the future. While his companions depart for another city, the warrior remains in the village, observing the dungeon's first effects, believing that it will begin attracting more and more people to the region. Shortly afterward, the new dungeon begins attracting far more adventurers than expected, especially after rumors spread about rare treasures discovered on the first floors. With groups advancing deeper and deeper and low-level adventurers managing to explore the area safely, the village quickly begins to grow and become more lively. With the dungeon's success, new floors begin being created rapidly, while stronger monsters start appearing within the area. At the same time, the group receives news from the city and realizes that the situation is evolving faster than they imagined, forcing the warrior to temporarily return in order to follow the upcoming events. After returning to receive their reward, the group is surprised with an extremely rare promotion and ends up advancing directly to rank S. Officially recognized as elite adventurers after defeating the dragon and resolving the demonic sword incident, they quickly become one of the most important groups in the city. Following the group's promotion, the new ally also receives permission to remain free, since he was officially treated as a victim of the demonic sword. In addition, the group discovers that the request to officially create their own clan has been approved, marking the beginning of an even greater new phase for all of them. After officially establishing the clan, the group chooses the name Star Conqueror S to represent their new journey. United by the same dream, everyone shares the goal of becoming the strongest in the world and believes that, together, they can truly achieve the impossible. Right after creating the clan, the group receives a special invitation to participate in a massive clan tournament that will take place in the capital. The event will gather powerful organizations from across the kingdom and will determine the official clan rankings, giving the group their first major chance to prove their strength before the entire world. Without hesitation, the group accepts participating in the tournament, already determined to claim first place. Excited by the opportunity to face the kingdom's strongest clans, they also discover that there is still a special reward prepared for them thanks to the guild's influence and connections. As a special reward, the warrior receives a powerful rare sword that immediately catches his attention. Surprised by the unexpected gift, he can barely believe that he now possesses such a valuable weapon to use in future battles and in the approaching tournament. After analyzing the new weapon, the warrior discovers that he has received an extremely rare and powerful demonic sword, capable of increasing his attacks when fueled with magic. Impressed by the weapon's power, he realizes that this gift may elevate his strength even further before the Great Clan tournament. Excited about the new sword, the warrior promises to completely master the weapon's power before the tournament. While everyone watches his unusual excitement, the group also continues organizing plans involving the new dungeon and the preparations for the future clan. During the conversation, the group discovers that dungeons can be destroyed if someone eliminates the core hidden within them. Concerned about this, the guild leader asks them to protect the village's dungeon, since the place has already begun generating rare equipment and enormous profits in an incredibly short amount of time. With the dungeon's rapid growth, the guild decides to officially take control of the region and establish a branch near the village. While neighboring cities begin profiting from the flow of adventurers, the group promises to protect the residents and rapidly develop the area in order to transform the place into a new, important center for adventurers. With the village's plans underway, the group decides to split up once again in order to handle different tasks. While the warrior leaves to test his new sword in the forest, the others continue taking missions and helping with the growth of the dungeon and the future Beastfolk city. While the group continues taking care of the dungeon and the village, the new ally returns to his homeland and continues training intensely. Even after several defeats, he refuses to give up, determined to become strong enough to make up for the mistakes of the past and catch up to his new companions. Even after losing once again, the new ally insists on continuing to fight in order to prove his worth. During the harsh training in his village, he finally understands that he still cannot use his full strength due to his lack of maturity, and realizes that he will need to grow much more before carrying the responsibility of leading the Dragonkin. During the battle, the new ally reveals that he had always fought seeking recognition from his family and wanted to prove that he was strong enough to surpass everyone around him. Even completely exhausted and injured, he continues trying to stand back up, unable to abandon the pride and emotions he carried for so long. After causing problems during the battle, the new ally ends up being temporarily expelled from the village as punishment. Unable to fully accept his family's decision, he leaves the place carrying frustration and resentment while beginning to wander alone once again. Consumed by rage and frustration after being expelled from the village, the new ally loses control and wanders in dragon form, destroying everything in his path for several days. Unable to deal with his own feelings, he sinks deeper and deeper into the despair that eventually led him to the demonic sword. During his uncontrollable rampage, the dragon eventually encounters a mysterious red-haired man. Without understanding what was happening, he is suddenly attacked from behind and feels intense pain before realizing that he was being used as the target for something far darker. After being injured, violent thoughts begin invading the dragon's mind, awakening an uncontrollable desire for blood and destruction. Even while desperately trying to resist, he slowly loses control over his own body and eventually flies toward a large city while being consumed by the demonic sword's malicious influence. While flying toward the city, the dragon desperately fights against the murderous thoughts implanted by the curse. Even without wanting to destroy innocent people, the pain and influence of the demonic sword consume his mind more and more until the point where he can no longer resist alone. Shortly before completely losing consciousness, the dragon is interrupted by the group's coordinated attack. Even while dominated by pain and the curse, he notices the perfect cooperation between the adventurers and understands that it was precisely that trust between them that managed to stop him before tragedy could happen. While being attacked by the group, the dragon observed their perfect unity and felt a mixture of frustration and envy. Deep down, he realized that he had never had companions he could trust in that same way, which only increased his pain and loss of control even further. After regaining consciousness, the dragon finally understands everything that happened during his rampage. Upon discovering that he had been saved by the same group that faced his fury, he accepts officially joining them and recognizes that those companions completely changed his destiny. As he lives alongside the group, the new ally begins to understand the strength, kindness, and trust that unite all of them. Inspired by his companion's journey, he finally decides to abandon the past and continue living not only for himself, but also for the people he now considers his true family. Now, surrounded by true companions, Drake finally finds a new purpose to keep moving forward. Determined not to repeat the mistakes of the past, he decides to become stronger in order to protect his friends and walk beside them as part of the new family he found. Already testing his new weapon, the protagonist begins destroying monsters with absurd ease and immediately notices the enormous power of the rare katana he just received. Excited by the strength of the new blade, he becomes even more motivated to continue evolving and face greater challenges from that point onward. After obtaining an extremely powerful new weapon, the protagonist decides to focus entirely on preparing the group for the great ranking war that will happen in a few months. While they continue accepting missions and strengthening the dungeon, the goal now is to make everyone evolve as much as possible before the decisive battle between the clans. A month and a half later, the group's efforts begin completely transforming the old, isolated village. With the guild officially established, new shops appearing, and even humans beginning to move into the area, the dungeon starts driving the region's growth, and the dream of creating a prosperous city finally begins becoming reality. As the dungeon becomes larger and more dangerous, the protagonist even adds an S-rank boss in order to increase the difficulty and raise the location's rewards even further. At the same time, strategic improvements make exploration safer for adventurers, causing the dungeon's fame to spread rapidly while the village continues developing non-stop. After weeks of training and completing missions non-stop, every member of the group finally begins showing absurd growth. Seeing his companions becoming stronger and stronger, the protagonist decides to personally test each one's combat level to measure how much the clan has grown before the ranking war. The first to show his results is Drake, revealing that he reached an extremely high level after intensely training his aerial battles and learning to fight even in human form. Soon after, Shinku also surprises everyone by evolving into a new advanced class focused on the front line, unlocking several powerful abilities that drastically increase the group's strength. Kinu also reveals a massive evolution after reaching a new stage called Golden Fox, gaining even more destructive magical abilities and even techniques capable of partially reading the emotions of enemies. While his companions show off absurd powers, the protagonist admits that he spent this time slowly mastering his new demonic katana, even though he has only evolved one level so far. On the night before the trip to the royal capital, the group decides to enjoy a rare, peaceful moment gathered around the table. Knowing they will be separated for quite some time because of the next missions and responsibilities, everyone shares a special dinner while preparing for the beginning of an even greater new stage in their journeys. Before the Great Ranking War begins, the group decides to focus completely on improving their equipment and preparation. While the protagonist leaves to settle important matters in the capital, the other members promise to continue strengthening the dungeon and also reveal that they prepared new special equipment to help Drake and Shinku become even stronger for the battles to come. The group then gives Drake and Shinku new custom-made special equipment inspired by legendary warriors from the land of Wa. Besides greatly increasing defense and mobility, the outfits also symbolize that Drake has finally begun being treated as a true member of the team, side by side with the other companions. Excited about the new matching uniforms, the group begins feeling even more united before the great competition approaching them. After that, it is Kinu's turn to receive a special gift. A set of dual blades created specifically to match her new combat style, drastically increasing her speed and offensive power. Kinu becomes extremely happy upon receiving her new dual blades, light and fast weapons created especially to maximize her chain attacks. Then, the group reveals that the final gift will be for the protagonist himself, a special item so difficult to choose that everyone spent a long time deciding what would be best for him. The group's final gift ends up being an extremely rare anti-magic ring, capable of protecting the protagonist against mental effects in dangerous conditions such as sleep, poison, and paralysis. Realizing how perfectly that item matches his current weaknesses, he becomes genuinely emotional while everyone ends the night preparing to depart for the capital the next day. The next day, Part of the group finally leaves the village to head toward the royal capital and prepare for the Great Ranking War. While some remain responsible for continuing to manage the dungeon, the others depart determined to strengthen their equipment and reach a new level before the decisive competition begins. As they travel toward the capital, the group plans their next steps and decides to keep training until the very last moment before the tournament begins. After hours of intense travel, they stop to rest along the way, but soon notice that something strange seems to be happening nearby. After a long journey, the group finally arrives at the gigantic commercial city of Meralda, one of the kingdom's busiest centers. Impressed by the absurd number of people constantly entering and leaving, they have to face lines and pass through the guards' inspection before finally managing to enter the city, where they will begin their final preparation for the tournament. Because they are already Rank S adventurers, the group receives special treatment right at the city entrance and manages to pass through inspection without difficulty. After that, they look for a place to stay and receive a recommendation for a famous inn known for its excellent food and comfortable atmosphere, deciding to begin their stay there before the final preparations for the tournament. Upon arriving at the recommended inn, the group discovers that the place is practically full because of the tournament and that only 2 rooms are left available. Without causing any trouble, they decide to split up and enjoy the stay, especially after hearing that the inn is famous for having some of the best food in all of Meralda. After settling into the inn, Drake takes advantage of the peaceful moment to speak seriously about his insecurities. Even though he has become stronger, he admits that he feels he has evolved less than he expected and begins questioning what path he should follow from now on to continue growing alongside the group. During the conversation, Drake reveals the true reason behind his concern. He feels that he still has not found a unique role within the group. With On dominating the attack, Kinu crushing enemies with magic, and Shinku holding the front line, he begins to believe that maybe he is not truly necessary to the team, even after everything they have been through together. The protagonist then explains that Drake is seeing everything the wrong way. Instead of competing for the same role as the others, his true strength lies in being a pure attacker, capable of eliminating powerful enemies quickly, reducing the pressure on the entire team. When he realizes that his offensive ability directly helps protect Kinu and Shinku, Drake finally begins to understand the unique value he has within the group. To help Drake find a combat style that matches his absurd strength even better, the protagonist decides to give him the gigantic sword he used to wield in the past. Although surprised by the trust placed in him, Drake accepts the weapon excitedly and finally feels that he has found a clear path to evolve even further as the group's main attacker. After the sincere conversation and the new weapon, the mood among the companions becomes much lighter. Before they continue training, Shinku and Kinu appear excitedly, calling everyone to dinner at the inn's tavern, gathering the group once again for another peaceful moment before the intense battles awaiting them in the capital. During dinner, the group finally tastes the inn's famous food, and everyone is impressed by the absurd flavor of the dishes. While enjoying the relaxed moment, they end up overhearing rumors from the other customers about a major mysterious event that has been stirring up the entire city and could explode at any moment. Curious about the rumors circulating through the city, the protagonist tries to find out more information, but admits that he is not very good at talking to strangers. Drake immediately offers to investigate alone, determined to get answers even if he has to spend a few coins buying drinks to pry information out of the tavern's residents. Using his ease with socializing, Drake quickly manages to get information from the adventurers in the tavern. He discovers that someone mysterious has been attacking slave traffickers' hideouts throughout the city and freeing the prisoners for several days, creating a huge commotion in Meralda, while no one can figure out who is behind it. The information becomes even heavier when they discover that the targets of the attacks are traffickers who illegally kidnapped demi-humans and beast folk within the city itself. The mysterious vigilante has come to be seen almost like a hero by the residents, and now everyone believes that the last major remaining hideout will be attacked the very next night. Upon hearing the entire story, the protagonist becomes thoughtful about the mysterious figure who has been attacking the slave traffickers from the shadows. As the whole city begins seeing this unknown person as a true hero, someone silently watches from the rooftops under the moonlight, suggesting that this mysterious person may be much closer to the group than they imagine. As they analyze the situation more carefully, the group realizes that the problem is far more rotten than it seemed. The trafficking of demi-humans and beast folk is illegal in Meralda, which means someone powerful is protecting the criminals behind the scenes. Understanding that corrupt nobles are probably receiving bribes to allow all of it, the protagonist feels genuine anger growing inside him at the injustice happening in the city. Overcome with outrage, the protagonist decides that he cannot simply ignore what is happening in Meralda. Knowing that someone is facing all that corruption alone and freeing slaves makes his blood boil, leading him to decide to directly help in that fight. Without hesitation, his companions immediately agree to stand by his side once again. The group then begins creating a plan to investigate the situation without drawing attention. While some will search for clues about the freed slaves and possible trafficker hideouts, Drake decides to look for the mysterious liberator from the skies using his aerial mobility. At the same time, the protagonist realizes there is a dangerous possibility. The traffickers may already know they are being hunted and might act before the next night arrives. That same night, the group begins investigating separately throughout the city. While the others discreetly search for clues, the protagonist infiltrates one of the suspicious mansions alone, using a disguise to act as a buyer. Inside, he finally confirms the worst possible scenario. Traffickers really are illegally selling demi-humans to wealthy clients inside Meralda. Without raising suspicion, the protagonist continues pretending to be interested in the negotiation, while the trafficker proudly reveals that he also sells innocent slaves hidden in a secret area of the mansion. Guided down to the underground floors of the place, he finally finds the definitive proof of the entire illegal operation happening in the city's shadows. Upon arriving at the underground cells, the protagonist finds dozens of demi-humans imprisoned in terrible conditions, confirming all the cruelty hidden behind that trafficking network. But before he can act, he notices something unexpected. Another hooded person had already infiltrated the place and was trying to free the slaves by force, proving that the mysterious vigilante truly existed. As he silently observes the place, the protagonist notices a newly captured elf being treated like merchandise before the illegal buyers. Revolted by the scene, he maintains his disguise and calmly approaches, asking to speak with her while trying to better understand who that girl was and how he could act without putting all the slaves in even more danger. When trying to speak with the elf, the protagonist ends up realizing something unexpected. The girl was actually Shinku infiltrated in disguise to investigate the place from the inside. Even irritated by his overly convincing approach, she explains that she is using that role to discover where the freed slaves are being taken, while the two of them must continue acting normally to avoid raising suspicion inside the mansion. To keep the disguise perfect, the protagonist pretends to negotiate the purchase of Shinku as if she truly were a rare slave. Even while entering the role in a frighteningly convincing way, he uses the situation to buy time and ensure that no one hurts her until the following night, making it clear to the trafficker that he would return later to personally conclude the deal. After leaving the mansion without raising suspicion, the protagonist finally confirms that the entire illegal trafficking network truly exists within Meralda. Even worried about Shinku being infiltrated among the criminals, he trusts in her strength and quickly reunites with Drake and Kinu to exchange information and prepare the next step before the large-scale operation on the following night. After comparing the gathered information, Drake and Kinu confirm that they still have not found any suspicious activity in other areas of the city. The protagonist then decides to bring the two back to the inn-room to explain the entire situation involving Shinku infiltrated inside the trafficker's mansion, leaving both of them completely shocked by the level of danger she was facing alone. Even worried about the danger, the group realizes that Shinku's infiltration ended up creating the perfect opportunity to act against the traffickers on the following night. While Drake continues patrolling the skies, searching for any suspicious movement, the protagonist decides to organize all the obtained information and maintain secret contact with Shinku through telepathy, carefully preparing the attack that may finally bring down Meralda's entire criminal network. The following morning, the protagonist discreetly returns to the surroundings of the mansion while monitoring all movement around the trafficker's hideout. Shortly before the operation begins, Drake contacts him from the skies and warns that he found someone extremely suspicious, completely hiding their presence in the nearby alleys, indicating that the mysterious vigilante has finally appeared. Realizing that the movement around the mansion has drastically increased, the protagonist understands that the traffickers have already reinforced all security, expecting a possible attack that night. While Drake and Roger remain watching from afar, he decides to investigate the surroundings of the hideout alone. Noticing that the mysterious intruder moves through the city's shadows in an unbelievably precise and experienced way. After finally reaching the mysterious intruder in the city alleys, the protagonist attacks first, using his electric speed to test the opponent. However, to his surprise, the hooded person reacts instantly and blocks the strike without difficulty, revealing absurd skill. Before the fight continues, the unknown person interrupts the confrontation and states that they are not his enemy, saying that they only appeared to help take down the traffickers. The mysterious vigilante then reveals that they also have someone infiltrated inside the mansion and proves that they are on the same side by explaining how they managed to completely hide their presence using a special cloak that interferes with the enemy's perception. Realizing that the unknown person could have attacked directly if they were truly an enemy, the protagonist finally agrees to cooperate silently to take down the traffickers together. The mysterious vigilante reveals that there is no more time to act cautiously, since several elves will be sold the next day. They then propose a quick plan. Enter alone first, free the prisoners and open the cells, while the protagonist invades shortly afterward to eliminate the guards and assist with the rescue. Before beginning the operation, the two finally exchange names and seal a temporary alliance to bring down the traffickers. Even while suspicious, the mysterious vigilante accepts cooperating with An and moves ahead first to begin the silent invasion of the mansion. Using the same disguise from the previous night, An returns alone to the mansion and manages to deceive the traffickers once again. Even noticing the increased security around the location, he remains calm and convinces the criminals to take him once more to the underground cells where the slaves were imprisoned. Upon noticing strange movement coming from the cells, the traffickers begin getting nervous and think about checking the area immediately. Taking advantage of the situation, An manipulates the criminal into going alone to speak with the slave, while secretly placing the remainder of the plan into Nelfi's hands, preparing the beginning of the invasion. While An maintained the disguise underground, Nelfi began the silent invasion and defeated several guards within seconds, using quick and precise attacks. Shortly afterward, she returns with the cell keys in hand, confirming that the path was finally clear to begin rescuing the slaves. After freeing the prisoners, Nelfi reveals that there are still many other slaves hidden in a second hideout in the city's eastern district. While she leaves alone to continue the mission, An and the others begin discreetly removing the prisoners from the mansion before the traffickers notice the attack. After taking the slaves to a safe location, Nelfi finally introduces herself as a dark elf and receives emotional gratitude from the people she saved. Even after all the initial suspicion, the group realizes that she is truly risking her own life to protect the slaves and bring an end to Meralda's traffickers. An officially introduces his group to Nelfi and explains that they belong to the Black Thunderclap clan, an S-rank team known for facing dangerous missions. However, upon realizing that the freed slaves are still in danger within the city, the group decides to help them safely return to their hidden homeland inside the Elysian Forest. Nelfi then reveals the devastating truth about her homeland. The legendary Elysian Forest, known for being impossible for non-elves to cross, was completely destroyed. The invaders burned down the entire village, murdered the men, and kidnapped the women, leaving the survivors without a home and nowhere to return to. Even without personally witnessing the attack happen, Nelfi discovers through the survivors that a red-haired man wielding a fire sword directly participated in the massacre of the Elysian Forest. Upon hearing the description, the group finally discovers the name of the person responsible: Pride. Upon hearing the name Pride, Drake immediately realizes that it is the same red-haired swordsman who wounded An in the past with the cursed sword. Nelfi confirms the information and explains that she heard survivors mentioning him during the trip to Meralda, causing An to finally connect the forest massacre to the man who marked his life forever. An realizes that the man responsible for the Elysian Forest massacre is the same red-haired swordsman connected to Drake's past and to the wound caused by the cursed sword. Even faced with that revelation, he decides to leave revenge for later and prioritize evacuating the survivors. With nowhere left to flee after the destruction of their homeland, the elves begin depending entirely on An's group to find a new safe place. After losing their village, the elves begin seeing An as someone they can truly trust. With no home left to return to, Nelfi considers the possibility of bringing the survivors to live inside the dungeon controlled by the group, believing that the place may be safer than continuing to flee from traffickers and invaders. Realizing that the elves no longer have any safe place to live, An decides to shelter everyone inside his dungeon and orders contracts to be made with the survivors. While Nelfi explains the situation to the refugees, the group begins organizing the transfer of the elves to the new home protected by the dungeon's monsters. With all the survivors finally contracted and protected, the group decides to immediately begin the evacuation to the Forêt Noire dungeon. While Ars and the other allies prepare everything on the other side, On leads the elves through teleportation, officially beginning the reconstruction of a new community inside the dungeon. Already inside the dungeon, Nelfi discovers that On was once human before becoming a monster, and begins trusting him even more after hearing his story. With the demi-humans now connected to the group through contracts, On promises to provide a safe place for everyone, and immediately begins preparations to build a new life inside the dungeon. Thinking about the refugees' future, On begins completely reorganizing the dungeon to transform it into a truly safe city. He creates residential areas for the demi-humans to live freely, and also builds workshops so elves and dwarves can craft clothes, accessories, weapons, and armor, giving the survivors the chance to rebuild their lives from zero. With the refugees finally settled and safe inside the dungeon, the group realizes that the survivors have begun recovering hope after losing everything. After organizing the rooms and stabilizing the situation, An gathers his companions to discuss the next step, launching a definitive offensive against the traffickers responsible for the entire tragedy. During the meeting, An decides that he does not want to punish only the traffickers, but also the nobles involved in the slavery scheme. However, to prevent the true culprits from escaping, the group concludes that they still need to act cautiously and maintain appearances until enough evidence is gathered. As part of the plan, An decides to visit the traffickers again the next day to make them believe that everything remains normal after the attack from the previous night. After witnessing everything the group did for the refugees, Nelfi officially decides to ask to join the Black Thunderclap clan. Besides wanting to help in the fight against the traffickers and corrupt nobles, she also wishes to repay the support she received from An and his companions after losing her homeland. An accepts Nelfi into the clan immediately, recognizing that her combat and espionage abilities will be extremely important to the group. While the companions celebrate the new member, Shink continues trying to improve her infiltration techniques after realizing that she still has much to learn from watching Nelfi in action. After the entire operation, An finally scolds Shink for placing herself in so much danger during the infiltration of the trafficker's mansion. The group makes it clear how important she is to everyone, making Shink realize that she does not need to carry everything alone. While the atmosphere finally calms down, Nelfi begins seeing Black Thunderclap as a true family. After strengthening the bonds within the clan even further, the group finally turns its attention toward Pride, the red-haired swordsman responsible for the massacre of the Elysian Forest, and then reveals that he probably already met this man in the past, back when he was only a beginner adventurer, directly connecting his old past to the enemy they now need to defeat. Upon remembering the name Pride, An finally decides to tell the group the complete truth about his past. He reveals that he was betrayed by his own teammates many years ago, shortly after reaching rank D and accepting his first subjugation mission, an event that nearly cost him his life and completely changed his destiny. 14 years earlier, still as a beginner adventurer recently promoted to rank D, An participates in his first important mission alongside a more experienced group. During the operation, he ends up coming into contact with a mysterious, extremely rare egg that quickly awakens the interest of everyone around. During the auction, the mysterious egg quickly draws the attention of all the adventurers and nobles present because of its absurd value. Without hesitation, An shocks the entire hall by offering 5,000 gold coins for the relic, leaving even his own companions stunned by the gigantic bid. An's absurd offer immediately wins the auction, securing the mysterious egg before any other buyer could even react. While his companions remain shocked by the fortune spent all at once, the group quickly finalizes the purchase, without imagining that the object would completely change An's destiny from that point onward. After securing the mysterious egg at the auction, the group decides to continue exploring the rare items at the event, while Shink excitedly celebrates the new acquisition. Without realizing it, An had just taken the first step toward the event that would completely change his life in the future. The following day, after believing they would finally have a moment of peace before the next battle, the group ends up being approached by a man connected to the Star Sovereign clan. The unexpected appearance immediately catches the attention of An and his companions, indicating that new problems were about to begin. An quickly realizes that the man was not just a simple merchant, especially after noticing the presence of a guard connected to the royal knights accompanying him. Shortly afterward, the group discovers that the visitor was actually a disguised prince of the kingdom, someone important enough for even his subordinates to demand immediate respect in front of him. The mysterious visitor then reveals his true identity as Luzark Alt, the second prince of the kingdom of Alto. Even appearing without official status, he makes it clear that he came to An out of personal interest after noticing the unusual strength and intelligence of Black Thunderclap's leader, beginning a conversation away from the kingdom's watchful eyes. After observing Black Thunderclap's performance in the tournament and also An's unusual behavior during the auction, Prince Luzark becomes even more interested in the group. Convinced that An was not an ordinary adventurer, he decides to make a direct request to the party leader: win the great ranking battle that would determine the future of the kingdom's clans. Even without fully revealing his intentions, the prince makes it clear that he expects great results from Black Thunderclap in the ranking tournament. An accepts the challenge without hesitation and promises to show a power far beyond anything anyone in the kingdom has ever seen, while Luzark leaves even more interested in the true potential of that mysterious group. The next day, the tournament finally begins, and Black Thunderclap arrives, surrounded by expectations after their impressive performance in recent days. With a gigantic bet of 5,000 gold coins placed on the group, Nelfi takes the front line for the first time, while the eyes of the entire arena turn toward An's team. Before the fight begins, An observes the opponents they would face in the tournament's first round and quickly realizes that the Fortissimo clan was formed by a group famous for using charm and seduction to manipulate their opponents. While the arena becomes excited by the rival party's presence, Nelfi immediately becomes suspicious after realizing that the battle probably hid far more danger than it appeared to. Shortly before the battle begins, the members of the Fortissimo clan try to provoke and destabilize Black Thunderclap, using charm and suggestive comments aimed at An and the other group members. However, Nelfi quickly realizes the intention behind the provocations and keeps her focus completely directed toward the battle that was about to begin. Before the fight starts, Nelfi exchanges direct provocations with the leader of the Fortissimo clan, making it clear that she would not be intimidated easily. As he watches the two facing each other in the arena, An realizes that Nelfi had become far stronger than he imagined, while the second round of the tournament finally begins before the entire crowd. The moment the battle begins, Nelfi demonstrates absurd precision and defeats her opponents almost instantly, using quick and lethal long-range attacks. Without giving the Fortissimo clan any chance to react, she secures consecutive victories for Black Thunderclap and surprises the entire arena with her overwhelming skill. In the following fight, the vice-captain of the Fortissimo clan attempts to use speed and constant pressure to neutralize Nelfi's ranged attacks. However, taking advantage of her stealth abilities, Nelfi disappears from the opponent's field of vision and ends the battle with a single surprise attack, further solidifying Black Thunderclap's absolute dominance in the tournament. After defeating yet another opponent with ease, Nelfi secures another victory for Black Thunderclap and begins attracting the attention of the entire arena. Impressed by her absurd strength, the leader of the Fortissimo clan even goes as far as attempting to recruit her immediately into his own team, recognizing the monstrous talent she was displaying in the tournament. Nelfi immediately rejects the proposal from the leader of the Fortissimo clan, stating that she already belonged to the best clan possible. While the rival attempts to hide his true intentions behind provocations and manipulation, An quickly realizes that he was only trying to emotionally destabilize his opponents before the main battle began. While observing the leader of the Fortissimo clan more closely, Nelfi begins suspecting that he might have some connection to people from her past. Taking advantage of the moment before the main fight, she decides to confirm her suspicion and directly asks about Mardag, leaving the opponent surprised after realizing that she knew that name. Lucas then reveals that Mardag died months earlier during a subjugation mission that ended up turning into a complete massacre inside the Adventurers Guild. The news hits Nelfi immediately, especially after discovering that the man she had been searching for had lost everything after that disaster, completely ending any hope of reunion. Right after the conversation about Mardag, the main battle finally begins at high speed. The leader of the Fortissimo clan launches into the attack immediately, but Nelfi responds using enchantment magic and paralyzing poison, showing that beyond her absurd precision, she also mastered extremely dangerous techniques capable of neutralizing any opponent quickly. Even while trying to resist, the leader of the Fortissimo clan ends up completely dominated by Nelphi's techniques. Taking advantage of the effect of the paralyzing poison, she quickly ends the fight with precise attacks, guaranteeing Black Thunderclap's absolute victory and proving before the entire arena that she had become a monstrously powerful fighter. With consecutive and overwhelming victories, Nelphi practically secures Black Thunderclap's absolute triumph in the tournament by herself. After the battle, even An becomes impressed upon realizing how much she had evolved, officially recognizing the enormous strength that the new member brought to the clan. After the tournament, Nelphi reveals more details about Pride's past, and confirms that he was responsible for driving a dragon insane using Mardag's magical sword before attacking Drake. Even while understanding part of what happened, the group realizes that they still do not know the true reason behind Pride's actions, concluding that they would need to find him personally to uncover the whole truth. After the tournament victory, Black Thunderclap receives an enormous reward in gold, but soon discovers that new rules will limit betting in the upcoming rounds. Even so, An continues focused on gathering enough resources to further develop the demi-human village, while the group uses their free time to continue training and strengthening their new abilities. With the tournament temporarily over, the group decides to enjoy the rest of the day training and resting. While some head toward the training field, An notices that Kinu seemed interested in trying sweets for the first time, causing the atmosphere to finally become lighter after so many conflicts and intense battles. An then decides to take Kinu to visit a cafe in the city before the dinner planned with the rest of the group. For the first time in a long while, the two manage to enjoy a simple and peaceful moment together, walking through the city while trying sweets and attempting to relax after so many heavy events. While enjoying their time together at the cafe, An tries to get to know Kinu better and realizes how simple and sincere she was about her feelings. Without hesitation, Kinu admits that she liked An more than anything else, while also revealing her love for flowers and plants. Upon hearing that, An begins imagining ways to make her new home even more comfortable inside Forêt Noire. After spending time together at the cafe, the group reunites once again to discuss preparations for the next tournament fight. Motivated by her recent training and by the new weapon she had been mastering better and better, Shink decides to volunteer to act as the vanguard in the next battle, wanting to prove that she could also lead the clan's front line.